Alright. On to the next. The power of homemade spreadsheets.
誰もいない。
I
誰
know.
も動いていない。
I need to make a save right before the first
生きていない。
the first trigger.
聞こえるのはただ降り続ける雨の音だけ。
For the sake of
このまま全てを。
I hurt myself.
体が動かない。 僕の名前は西條匠。
I know.
17歳。水明学園2年。
We've met.
片付けろよな。誰だよ散らかしっぱなしにしたのは。って僕か。
I feel like we're good friends at this point. This thing, I still don't understand what the effect this has. I have no idea. Sure. Yeah. It's another reason I want to make a save right before the thing, so I don't have to answer. Yeah. I don't know. I feel more inclined to answer those questions if I understood what impact they had. I had no idea. I truly, I wish I knew. Oh, good. Yep. I hate that thing. That pregnant man. Considering how much I hate it, I sure do say it a lot. It's just really, I don't know why it's, I feel like saying it really, like, it takes the edge off of it, you know? If I say it out loud, then I don't have to worry about it. As if I had to worry about it. Oh, Misumi, what impact are you gonna, I wonder if he's gonna be like super relevant in like the final act or something. Okay, I'm gonna make a save here for future usage. How do I, there we go. There we go. Okay, cross-referencing. Oh wait, actually I think this is an ending relevant thing. A route relevant choice. Neutral. Okay. Scratch that. Ignoring the spreadsheet for now. Disregarding the spreadsheet. Currently. Okay. Clicking the wrong... There we go. It's just a coincidence. Go. I'm hallucinating. No. Whoever did it is inside the school. Yes. They're taunting me. Yes. I want to erase it now. Yes. Mission accomplished. Misumi walked up to me and grabbed me by the shoulders to shake me.
聞いてる? おい、青く。
Every word in that phrase was commonly used. It was just some stupid scribbling. I tried to tell myself that, but I started to feel really creeped out. In the end, I quickly erased them, hoping that nobody was watching me. Alright. Oh, this is the... I'm on the Yua route, which is exciting because... she just kind of disappears. After, like, first couple chapters or so, she like just disappears and then shows up later. It's weird. So I'm actually pretty excited about this route. Shibuya Station in the early morning has a very different face than it does during the day. There were very few teenagers. It was mostly company men and women in suits, packing the train cars full as they headed from the station to their destinations. Somehow, they seemed slow with exhaustion and in a hurry all at once. The students looked the same way. There weren't that many Suimei Academy students around. To get to Suimei from this station, you had to walk for at least 20 minutes. You had to climb up Dogenzaka Hill, too. Most Suimei students who used the trains got off at Shinsen Station, the station nearest the school. Yua Kusunoki, however, always chose to walk to school from Shibuya Station. She had to wake up a little early to do it, but she didn't mind. Shibuya Station was jam-packed with people, but once you went up Dogenzaka Hill, there weren't nearly as many pedestrians. You enjoyed walking in the fresh morning air. She also liked to watch the news on the big televisions outside Shibuya Station. This morning, like always, she was looking up at the big O-front TV as she waited for the signal to change. She gasped, shocked. Text ran right to left across the bottom of the screen. When she read the text, third new generation case, the first thing she thought of was a boy's face. She'd never met the boy, never talked to him. She'd just seen his face yesterday morning, but that was more than enough for her to be sure that he was behind the new gen killings. Well, what a absurd hunch. She could remember what had happened clearly. It was 7 a.m. on the previous day, inside Suimei Academy's school building. No one else had arrived at school yet, and Yua was hurrying through the empty hallways. She had a stern look on her face, and her eyes were locked dead ahead. There was no hesitation in her stride. She stopped in front of the classroom. A classroom. Outside of it was a sign reading 2C. She looked up at it once, and then went inside without even pausing for a moment. It wasn't her class. She was a third-year student, and normally she'd have no reason to go inside this classroom. Normally, yes. But today, she had a reason. She slowly looked around the empty room, then headed to the blackboard. She looked at the red, yellow, and white pieces of chalk for a moment, before settling on a brand new piece of white chalk. Then she began to write something on the blackboard, taking care to make her handwriting look a little worse than it actually was. She whispered the words she'd written aloud. She set the chalk down and glanced around the classroom again. She whispered to no one in particular. She spoke softly, even though the classroom was empty. Dang, busted. I mean, she's wrong, but, you know. She bit down tightly on her lip. After that, she killed time on the roof. I just saw the word killed, and I was like, wait, what? She killed time on the roof until it was time for the students of 2C to come to school. 10 minutes before homeroom, she went to the locker in front of the class 2C and watched carefully to see if anyone reacted to the "whose eyes are those" that she's written. And, just as she expected, she saw a boy with a frightened look on his face, trying desperately to erase the words. She confirmed later that it was, in fact, Takumi Nishijo. Her words were drowned out by an electronic sound that had been modeled after the chirping of pigeons. If you say so. The crosswalk lights at Scramble Crossing had turned green. The waves of people had began to surge forward once more. But Yua just stood there, unconcerned with the traffic she was blocking, looking up at the text on the huge TV above her. Pigeons, huh? If you say so. Ooh, spreadsheet time. Green. That's not green. I put them on the wrong side on the spreadsheet, so it's going to be very confusing for me. Get my pencil ready to mark it off. Oh, never mind. Did I do green already? I didn't mark it. No, I did the wrong. No, I did. Okay, no, we're good. I just did that already apparently and didn't mark it on the. We're good. So already the spreadsheet is failing a little bit, by which I mean I am failing a little bit. All right. Yeah. No, apparently I did that one too. Why did I not mark this off on the spreadsheet? I swear it's good. It's gonna work eventually. This will lead me to the secrets I desire. My ultimate prize. Just doing the ones I didn't mark off, which apparently we already did those. Which, yeah, these are from the most recent one, so I guess I just forgot to mark off the most recent ones. That's okay. As long as I keep marking them off, I'll have done. There are only 3 options per, so, you know. Eventually, all will be well. Oh, Yua Kusunoki had a twin sister, one born right after her. But she died a month ago. It was suicide. A twin sister was, in a lot of ways, a part of yourself. The 2 of them were far closer than most siblings. She meant everything to Yua, and when she died, it was like losing a half of herself. When she heard the news, she cried and cried. She had laid down on the bed in her younger sister's room, looking for any trace of the girl who'd lived there just the day before. Why did she die? Yua couldn't come up with a single reason. It wasn't suicide. Her sister would never do that. Somebody had killed her. As her sadness deepened, she became more and more sure of it. Maybe there was a message from her sister somewhere that she hadn't noticed? Feeling a little guilty, she began to look through her sister's things. She found a diary, and in it were the words... What other words could it be at this point? Like, anytime they say words, it's like, I wonder which 4 words it's gonna be. Whose eyes are those? It was an SOS from her sister. It had to be, but she had no idea what it meant. In desperation, she decided to search for it on the internet. The elementary, yeah. That led her to something. The National Elementary School Essay Contest. It was something the Ministry of Culture had held 6 years ago. The winning essay was titled, Whose Eyes Are Those? The author's name was written on the page, too. Takumi Nishijo. He would have been in 5th grade at the time. But she couldn't imagine what the relationship between her and her sister and this Takumi Nishijo was. It seemed to be a dead end. Her chance to investigate further came suddenly. Yua would always pass by Shoto Park on her way to school. Twice a week or so, she'd see a lonely-looking boy eating a pastry while sitting on the park bench. As she looked at him sitting there, forlorn, for some reason he began to intrigue her. One day, she was going to school alongside a classmate she happened to run into at the station, and she saw him on the bench in his usual spot. When her classmate saw her interest in him, this is what she said.
あいつ、2年の西条っていう子らしいよ。弟が同じクラスでさ、引きこもりのキモオタなんだって。 楠木、あんな奴に興味持つのやめときなよ。
Well, that's not a very nice thing to say. Nishijo. Nishijo was a very unusual name. This couldn't be a coincidence. Yua quickly got her hands on a student roster for the second-year classes. She found what she was looking for. That name, Takumi Nishijo. But there was still a chance that it might be a different person who just happened to have the same name. So Yua decided to test him. Whose eyes are those? When she wrote those words on the blackboard, he seemed to panic. And it was right after that, when the crucified killing occurred, and someone on the net leaked a witness statement that a Suime Academy student had been seen running from the scene. Yua was sure of it now. There was something suspicious about Takumi Nishijo. He might have been the one who killed her sister. Okay, so I guess it wasn't a completely baseless claim. A completely baseless hunch. There was like some substance to it, I guess. Alright. I think I did this one too. Yeah, I just must have forgotten to mark off the most recent ones. Oh, that's fine. I'm on a roll with the spreadsheet. Best thing I ever did. I'm so proud of it. I don't know why. So dumb. Mm-hmm. Oh. Okay, let me just mark it off. Eventually I'm gonna write out new ones and it's gonna be like pure rush through. Yep. I didn't do this one. Neat.
どういうこと？
Her whispered voice sounded so real. I felt her poking my cheek. At least, it kind of felt like that. I slowly opened my eyes. Next to my bed, I saw Saratan, pre-transformation, Sarah Amanogawa version? Yeah. She wasn't 1/8 scale. She was full-sized, and she moved smoothly and realistically. I gulped and sat up, poking the life-size Saratan in the chest. This is hilarious. This is so funny. They were soft. She wasn't a figure. It was really her. Saratan had come to the 3D world.
No. ここは二次元だよ。
Huh? It is? Even though they're so soft?
二次元的にプニプニなんさ。
I didn't know what that meant, but if they were soft, that was all that mattered. I realized belatedly that I'd just touched her breasts, and suddenly got really embarrassed. You know, like you do. The life-size Sarah was really cute. I could just die of moe. And she was so realistic too. That's why I suddenly felt guilty for touching her breasts and worried that she might hate me for it.
ごめん、セイラタン。
タッキーならいいよ。
It's your fantasy, my dude.
本当？
他の人にはこんなことされるのは嫌だけどさ。
I like how in some of these he's like remorseful and like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that. And then in others he just goes full psycho. There's like no in between. It's so funny. What a goob.
特に進むとか。あいつに胸触られたら金棒で月までぶっ飛ばしちゃってる。
And now I'm just remembering all those Saratan's beating the shit out of him. So
静かに。
that club really
声出
hurts
すと
apparently.
看護師さんたちに見つかっちゃうっしょ。
Sayritan seemed to be paying close attention to what was going on outside the curtain. She took off her shoes. I like that. That's a fully unique character portrait, and I'm curious if this is gonna be the only time it shows up. That would be. I kind of hope so. I kind of hope that this one specific delusion is the only time that character portrait exists. That would make it so much better. She took off her shoes and quietly got up on the bed with me, being careful not to make a sound. She lifted herself onto my lap. Oh my god. You are in public, my dude. I almost said something, but quickly put my hand over my mouth. Sayritan was sitting on my lap. Her panties were brushing up against my crotch. Oh no, my little... Oh, I have to say this. I wasn't expecting that phrasing. My little man was about to lose control. Oh my lord. Sayritan put her face up close to mine. She smelled good, so this was what Sayritan smelled like.
ねえねえ、タッキー。
Oh lord.
タッキーも二次元になっちゃうべきだよ。
What did she mean?
タッキーはまだ三次元なんさ。だから私が二次元に
That
してあ
caught
げ
me
る
off guard. That got...
いいっしょ。
Could she do that?
できるよ。それにすっごく気持ちいいよ。
I could hear the sound of the nurses walking around outside, and of the doctor talking to another patient. The only thing separating me from them was a single curtain. If it was opened, everyone would see us. The excitement and guilt I felt from doing something like this at a hospital was making me dizzy. Especially since I was doing it with Sayritan, my absolute favorite wife. Oh, I was so happy. I couldn't think of it about anything else. I just nodded my assent.
そうこなくっちゃ。そんなタッキーが好き。
Holy moly. She pressed her lips against mine. Oh, wow. Was not expecting that, alright. They were soft. Was this 2D softness too? Maybe they were softer than real ones? My brain wasn't keeping up with all these sudden H-game developments. All I could do was sit there. As I sat in confusion, seriously. Can I just read Twilight instead? What is... I take that back. No. Sayritan's tongue slipped between my lips. Oh my lord. Felt so much pleasure. Thought I'd go crazy. Who knew a kiss could feel this good? Wanted her luscious tongue to keep having its way with my mouth forever. I wrapped my hands around her waist, but her body was flat because she was 2D. This makes no sense. It was soft, but flat. Like kissing paper, maybe? But it still felt so good that I didn't care. I was so overcome that I couldn't even think about it. I mean, at that point, I'd be worried about, like, getting a paper cut on my mouth. That's awful. Sayritan was so hot. Oh my god, this sound. It just keeps going. I'm not ready for this. I wasn't ready for this. Oh my god. This is the funny type of cringe that just, I can't. Oh, it hurts. She sucked on my tongue. I felt like I was about to die. I couldn't take it. Oh my god, it's still going. Oh no, this is not right. Stop this. It was starting to hurt. Yeah, paper cuts, man. Gotta watch out for them. The, the suction coming from her mouth was incredible. I tried to pull my tongue back, but I couldn't. She sucked harder. The suck. Oh my god. It just doesn't end. There is no end. My tongue was being pulled forward so hard I thought it might tear. Not just my tongue. Back of my throat. Oh, she's sucking the third dimension out of him. I see. She did say she would turn him 2D. She's only fulfilling her promise or something. The back of my throat burned. My eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt. Felt like my stomach was being turned inside out. She sucked harder. Saratan was sucking up everything. My organs, my flesh, my bones. I could feel my beating heart pounding as it came up my throat. I could hear the thick arteries connected to it snapping within my body. This took an incredibly violent turn. It was an impossible feeling. The pain was unbearable, but more than that, it felt good. My whole body had become an erogenous zone. Literally every inch of me. Not just my skin. The inside of my throat, my heart, my blood vessels, my lungs, my intestines. Saratan had her way with my body, sucked it up. Being eaten by her felt so good, made me so happy that I felt I might pass out. I was going to die. I was going to die of pleasure. Oh my god, that sound is killing me right now. It is. I am dying. I am dying myself from this sound. Alright, that made it better. That was really funny. Is it over? Can we move on? Please, I beg you. Saratan let go, satisfied, after sucking up everything inside my body. A mix of blood and drool was dripping from her lips. Oh man, that's so hot, right? She smiled seductively. I didn't have the strength to answer. She'd taken everything from me. I'd never felt such incredible pleasure. I couldn't even think. My mind felt like it was in a thick fog. I had trouble forming coherent thoughts. Unsteadily, I lowered myself off the bed. My body was flat like hers now. So what, did I just go walk around town like paper people? It was hard to walk. I felt unsteady and soft, and couldn't stand up. I fell to my knees, and then collapsed to the ground without a sound. Saratan, I can't get up. Help me. I heard her voice from up on the bed. That was... that was so much. Alright, hold on while I mark this off my spreadsheet. That was absolutely absurd. Holy crap. I leapt up, only to find myself still on the bed. My heart was pounding so fast. My heart was still in my chest. I patted myself all around my body. It wasn't flat. I was still 3D. Saratan was nowhere to be seen. Of course she wasn't. I just realized, so on my spreadsheet, I also included like tiny, very short, because there's not much room. There's very short descriptions of what each delusion is, or like where it appears. So like the first one is like class, second one is soda. And one of them is literally Sarah sucks. I didn't even. That's really funny. I was not expecting. Apparently that should have been what this one's called, but no, that's Sarah sucks is number 30, so we'll get there eventually. That's so funny. I wasn't sure if that had been a good dream or a bad one. That's terrifying. I don't know about you, man. That's absolutely horrifying. I let out an unconscious sigh. What I had just experienced was right out of a doujinshi I'd bought, a blood-tune one by Circle Piru Piru? I must have used that doujinshi as a basis for my delusions. Oh boy. Why didn't I realize while I was in the dream? I knew, of course, that you never knew you were in a dream while you were in one, but it still bothered me.
西条さん
I don't know, it happens. I heard a voice call me from behind the curtain. It quickly opened and I saw the nurse from before, Hazuki.
おはようございます
I looked down and bowed to her slightly and silently.
結局3時間ぐっすりでしたね
Huh? It's been 3 hours already? I hadn't really kept track of time because of that crazy dream, but I must have been really tired.
少しうなされていたみたいですけど大丈夫
I couldn't tell her that it was a naughty dream. I was a little ashamed of my libido, to be honest.
でも無遊病の症状は結局出ませんでしたよ
Her tone was reassuring. Oh god, I forgot about this. If I just say no to everything. Nothing. I just refuse to participate. Why did I... Yeah, so, like, during this chunk of game, Yua kind of just disappears from the plot. And I don't really... So I'm excited to see where this goes. Because she... Okay, so... This one is called Concert. Because I'm so creative. I don't know why I only have one marked on this one. Let's go this one. Mark it appropriately. Yeah. This one is called Nightheart. I'm not going to go through all of the names. Marked. I don't want to... I don't want to think about Nanami right now. I need to get as far away from that as possible. Nude gem. Alright, I think with the red one.
やはり間違いない
Yeah, I did do this one.
お前私が見えているんだろ
はい
Did she just ask if I could see her? By her, she meant herself, right? Girl B, the one standing right in front of me. Suddenly, her face took on a look of sadness, and she knelt down before me. She was now at my eye level, and her gaze seemed like it was pleading with me.
私誰にも見つけてもらえなくてどれだけ声を出しても誰にも届かなくて体はすり抜けちゃうし寒いしほら見て私足も透けちゃって自分に何が起きたのかさっぱりわからなくて
This is not where I was expecting this one to go, but alright.
何年も何十年もこの場所さまよっていたような気がする
Was she a ghost? A ghost? Impossible. I didn't have any kind of sixth sense.
ずっと
You have more than that, my dude. Like, spoilers, but you have more than that.
私を見つけてくれる人、ありがとう、ありがとう、お礼に。お前に取り付いてやる。
What a dick. Dick move.
答えろ。見えるんだな。
Oh.
ディソードが。え？
I came back to my senses and looked back up at the girl of face B. Yep, that's what it says. Yep. She wasn't crying. Her legs weren't transparent. Her hands were normal hands. It's just a delusion. Why why you're disappointed? But a D-sword? What was that? I'd never heard that word before. It was clear she was referring to the strange sword-like object in her hand. But why did she want to know if I could see it? Because it's the coolest one and she's super proud of it. I don't want to look at you, child. I don't, I'm sorry. Has nothing to do with you as a character. I don't want to look at you right now. I don't want to think about it. All right, yeah, I don't know why I didn't mark off the most recent choices. Yep. Nope. It's so quiet when there's no music playing. I like. What do I have anything interesting to add? Not currently. Just say things for the sake of saying them, but that's silly. Alright, for some reason I have both red and green marked off for this one. Or not marked off, so I think it's actually accurate, because I think I went neutral all 3 times, because I just forgot. Or I did green. Oh no, yeah, I remember that one. Good stuff. Okay. Never mind everything I just said. Cross-referencing. Yeah. Marked it. I will say one good thing about the forbidden ending that need not be named. It did clarify that delusion Nanami is not Nanami's delusion. I thought it was like she made a delusion of herself the same way Takumi did, because it disappeared at like this around the same time that Rimi showed up where she was being held and she got distracted. I assume that's why she disappeared, but I guess delusion Nanami was Takumi's delusion because, you know, he was going insane. that makes sense. That makes more sense, honestly. So at the very least, it clarified that, and that's all I'm going to take from it. And I don't want to talk about it anymore, and I'm not going to. Okay. I think I did this one, but for the sake of marking it off my spreadsheet. Yep. You know, just a normal, everyday human interaction that it's like impossible. It just never happens. Nope, not saying anything about it. Nope. Not talking about it. Chain. Nope. Yep. Come on, give me some new content. Give me some new. Yes. Suddenly I stopped. What if she suddenly leapt at me with her D-sword? The idea scared me to death. I'd be so terrified, I'd probably do whatever she wanted me to do. I took another step inside the car. Then I stopped again. This was just what Senna wanted me to do. I was like a moth to a flame, or a moth caught in a spider's web, or something. But whatever it was, I was definitely a moth. This wasn't safe. What was I doing, walking right to my death? I should run. Running would be much safer. I could tell from the chain she was incredibly strong. She could just twist her hand a little and drop me helplessly to the ground, breaking my arm. And that wasn't all. She had a D-sword too. If that huge heavy sword hit me, I'd be dead. She'd been waiting for me. She was planning something. I had to get out of here now. I turned around to run. No. But the door to the train was closed. I'd only just come in. Just a few seconds had passed, so why? Without a sound, without any sign, had the door been able to close? Or had the door always been closed? I just stood there helplessly. I couldn't understand what had happened. When had the door closed? Who had shut it? That wasn't an automatic door, and even if it was, I would have heard a noise when it closed. Senna had been sitting on her seat, not moving at all. It hadn't been her. And of course, it wasn't me either. I hadn't even touched it. I wondered if the manager of the car might be somewhere nearby, but I looked outside the window and didn't see anyone who looked like that. No, wait, it didn't matter who'd shut the door. I looked toward the door at the other end of the car. It was closed too. I was locked in. The only people in the car were Senna and me. What did that mean? 1,000 negative thoughts came to me and made me want to scream.
いつまで
Senna spoke, glaring at me.
そこに突っ立っているつもりだ
There was nowhere to run. My legs were shaking. If I made a lot of noise, the people outside might notice, but before they could intervene, Senna would kick the crap out of me. For now, the smart thing to do would be to not resist. I gave up and walked over to Senna. Wait, if there were so many people out there, how come none of them thought it was strange that Senna and I were locked inside the train? None of them were paying the train even the slightest bit of attention. Just like when it closed, the door had silently opened again at some point in our conversation. The whole conversation felt like a strange dream, like maybe it had never happened at all. Neat. Maybe I wasn't sleepwalking. Maybe, but I know. Okay, that's it. Did I do the neutral one? Neutrality. Yep. Marked. Oops. Mocking. Did I do this one? Then there were her legs shown off beneath her miniskirt. They were long and well toned. Okay, yeah, I did this one. Listen, man. Gotta get that sword. It's so cool. Like it is hands down the second coolest for sure. 100%. The second coolest D-sword. It's badass. Did I? I feel like I'm doing a school worksheet right now. Like, all right, class, take notes. But like I'm choosing to, you know? It's like the type of note taking, the type of class you choose to take because you're interested in the subject. All right, good on the thing. After that, I leapt up, bag in hand, and ready to go. Get me the heck out of here. Hello. That's scary. But that girl was standing at the door, looking at me. She was just standing there. God damn it! I was gonna make a joke, but that's better than anything I could have said. Caught me off guard. I was gonna make some kind of dumb SpongeBob reference. I screamed. Half my classmates were still in the room. I could feel them staring at me coldly. Stop! Run away! Don't look at me! Run away! Please don't look at me! Run! Panicking, I knocked aside my classmates and headed straight out the other door, the one opposite from where Yua was standing. I ran until I made it to the courtyard, where I was suddenly overtaken by the urge to vomit. Oh, I get to listen to this wonderful sound again. I tried to hold it in, but it was useless. I dropped to my knees and threw up. Thank you, game. Can't wait to listen to that like 5 more times. Anyway, yep. Nope. I got up, leaving Remy behind as she stared at the computer screen, murmuring to herself. I went and picked up the toy D-sword in the corner of the room. I stood in the middle of the room and held it out in front of me, in the best approximation of an ESO character that I could do. I started to feel like an idiot. There was no way a wimpy Japanese kid like me could look anything but ridiculous while holding this huge sword. You would see photos online of people cosplaying with weapons like these. They usually looked really stupid. I probably looked the same as they did. Listen, I've seen some really cool, like, sword-related cosplay, so don't even say it's impossible. Maybe this was hopeless. I decided to try it anyway, though. Maybe I should try to imagine the sword in my head? The first thing that came to mind when I thought of swords were the ones in ESO. Or should I try to envision something like Senna and Ayase had said? One that was beautiful, terrible, and impossibly sharp. Couldn't get a clear image of it in my mind. Because I wasn't sure of what kind of sword to picture. An ESO sword, or one like Ayase and Senna had had. I should pick one or the other. I guess the latter would be the best choice. Okay, it's not like I have anything to lose by trying, right? Your dignity. You have your dignity to... Well... No, I guess you got nothing to lose. Go ahead. I pictured it in my mind, gritting my teeth and gripping the sword tighter. I focused hard. Become real!
やめて。
A warm, soft hand touched my hand as it gripped the sword. I opened my eyes in surprise. Oh, she mad? Rimi was standing beside me, holding my wrist. She was looking down, her eyes narrowed in pain, and her lips were trembling ever so slightly. What was going on? Something wasn't right. She looked like a totally different person than she had a moment ago, when she'd been so confused by the patent. What did that mean? Awful memories came racing through my mind. Rimi was on my side. She was on my side, right? I didn't know everything about her. Did she know about the D-sword too? I gulped and slowly, timidly called out to her.
タク、
Rimi was still looking down as she spoke. Her voice was flat and devoid of emotion.
その件だけど、
Rimi was on my side, right? She wouldn't betray me like you did, right? If Rimi betrayed me too, what would I do?
捨てた方がいいと思う。
どうして
My voice was cracking. Did Rimi know something about it?
だって、
Rimi finally turned her gaze toward me. I looked away as quick as I could. Because what?
だって、もう高校生だし。
Rimi suddenly grinned. She smiled at me mischievously. Mischievous? I never. The sudden change knocked all the tension out of my body.
そりゃ男の子っていくつになってもそういうおもちゃが大好きなんだなーってのはなんとなくわかるけど、さすがにそんな大きなおもちゃ一人で部屋で振り回してるのはどうかと思うよ。それが許されるのは小学生までじゃない？でもタクの個人的な趣味を私の前で披露してくれたってのはちょっと嬉しいかも。私にだけ秘密を教えてくれたみたいで。
What? I feel as silly for being scared. How silly. Alright. Marked. Oh god, I don't think I did this one, and I'm not sure what to expect. I'm scared. I glanced over at Rimi, unsure of what to say. Oh my god. I knew it! I knew it was gonna be this. Okay. Huh? Hey, wait. Why? My mind had gone totally blank. I was having trouble keeping up with this incredible turn of events. I couldn't even move a finger. I was too shocked to even speak.
どうかした？
Oh gosh, I wonder. She'd taken off the jacket of her uniform, I realized. That wasn't all. She'd taken off her skirt, too. The way she was sitting, it looked like she was. Oh, I think I've said this like 3 times already. She wasn't wearing any panties. That meant Rimi was sitting next to me, wearing nothing but a shirt and bra. The first thing I thought of was a famous H game about a private tutor. It was called... I can't! It was called... I think I'm just in a giggly mood today. Holy shit. It was called Miss Emily Can't Strip. And what I was experiencing right now was... What I was experiencing now was right out of its 3rd chapter. An H game had come to life, and right here in my room. Was this a delusion? A hallucination? Or was it real? Keep that zoom filter respectful, my dude. Whether it was real or a delusion, Rimi was definitely sitting in front of me, almost naked. I found myself staring at her chest. With her unbuttoned shirt, I could get occasional glimpses of it. Her light, pink bra. Your chest is bigger than I thought it was, Miss Sakihara. Wait, no, if you stare, she'll think you're a pervert. Why would she think that? Why would she possibly think that? It's crazy. Don't look at her. I let my gaze fall to the ground. The ground. Wait, no, now I'm looking at her legs. She's not wearing a skirt. I can see your panties, Miss Sakihara. No, you can't, actually. Unfortunately. They're very simple design, but very cute. Pant. Oh my god, stop. Oh my god, again with the little man! Crap, my little man was starting to boot up. I could smell a sweet scent coming from Rimi's body, and her skin felt real in a way that figures in 2D never did. So this was the power of 3D. It was too sexy to handle, to be honest. All of my deeply held values were in danger of being wiped out. I told myself I wasn't into 3D girls, that I only loved 2D girls. Could you just... But Rimi's body had a destructive power about it that threatened to eradicate those beliefs. You could hear her breathing, like she was a little excited. The fine strands of her hair gently waved as she breathed. Her chest moved up and down with each breath. The sexy way she was rubbing her thighs together. Her dewy eyes, her... I can't do it! It's too much. Her pink tongue peeking out from her half-open lips. It hurt to breathe. My mind was blanking. What was this? I felt that kind of strange, itchy feeling you get when a sex scene starts in an H game. My mind began to race.
ねえタク
She called to me in a sweet voice. I couldn't take my eyes off her body. I'd never seen a girl my age's body this close. Was Rimi coming onto me? Did she like... I'm gonna be honest, if it weren't for the fact that this isn't real, I would say that's a silly question. Like, you know, it's never good to assume, but I'd say this is a pretty... a relatively clear indicator. But it's also, you know, not real. So, to be honest, I didn't want to be tempted in such a lewd way. Ideally, I wanted to start off with a platonic friendship, and then we'd slowly fall in love with each other until she worked up the courage to say she liked me beneath the legendary tree on graduation day. That's fair. I'd say okay, and she'd start crying tears of joy, and we'd kiss. At least, that's what I used to think. But after experiencing the scene unfolding in front of me, platonic friendship could go screw itself.
私
Oh my lord.
喉乾いてきちゃった
Get the lady a soda!
飲み物ある
I stood up, unable to bear the tension between us. Get that woman a soda. Maybe in the fridge? I had a thing of soda, but I already drank out of it. Damn. Giving it to her would be weird. Yeah, that would be weird. That would definitely be the part that makes this weird. I could sense Rimi standing up behind me.
ちょっと行ってくる
You'll be right back? I turned around in a panic, just in time to see Rimi, still in her underwear, heading out the door. She was going to the store with her panties showing? That's crazy. Was Rimi an exhibitionist? Wow, that was a lot. Alright, fair enough. Mark it off. Listen, you know, we're not trying to yuck anybody's yum here. Alright? You do you. I leapt up and literally fell back in shock. Rimi was right there. She hadn't left at all. She was wearing all of her clothes, too. She was looking down at me with wide eyes.
びっくりした急に大声出さないでよさっきから変だよ 一人でブツブツ言い出したかと思ったら、急に大声上げるし。どうかしたの？
What was Remy doing here? I'd seen her leave. Was the sexy Remy I'd just seen a delusion? The sexy Remy had felt so real. Can we not refer to her like that? Half-naked Remy, I think, is more, you know... No, that's also weird. I hadn't touched her, but I could tell from looking at her just how soft her skin was. Wait, what was I saying? There was something wrong with me today. Just today, though.
ねえ、タク。
This is unhinged. My whole body froze when she spoke. Had I disgusted her? What if she didn't want anything to do with me anymore? Without her around, I couldn't even leave the house by myself.
私、喉乾いてきちゃった。何か飲み物ある？
She asked the exact same thing as before. But while she had sounded so sexy a moment ago, this time she sounded completely normal. I shook my head slightly. Remy put a finger to her temple and pursed her lips for a moment in thought.
ないなら買ってこようかな。コンビニって深センの駅前にあったよね。ちょっと行ってくる。
She smiled and left the room without waiting for my answer. All I could do was stare at her as she went. She was going to the store in her uniform. It was completely normal. The sexy Remy had just been a hallucination, after all. Of course it was. I felt a little relieved, but a little disappointed. But the sexy Remy, the second ISA. What was it that had made those delusions feel so real? Was I the one who'd done it, even? Did I have that power or not? If so, how could I use it? How could I get a D-sword? There were so many problems facing me that I didn't even know where to start. Popsicles! She's so cool. She's so cool! What was up with that sexy Remy, though? She was way too real to just be a hallucination. It was incredibly sexy, even just thinking back on it. I hadn't really stared that much, but I had even seen the wrinkles in her panties. As a self-pre- No! Game, you're hurting me! I can't keep laughing at, like, at this point my stomach hurts. As a self-proclaimed pantymeister of figures only, I could state that they were incredibly realistic. A mere delusion couldn't recreate that level of detail. Figures only. Wait, that wasn't what mattered here. Oh my god, that's... I love... Just the little things, you know? Sometimes it's just the little things. Alright, what do you got? Did I do G? Did I do green? The green power? I don't think I did the green power. Yeah. Mark. Suddenly, my vision went black. I could feel pressure in my eyes. What was happening to me? Could it be the legendary Guess Who scene? But scholars said it only existed in 2D. In 3D, it was just an urban legend. Nay, a myth! I never thought I'd get to experience it myself. In this moment, I'd become one of life's winners. No, wait, calm down. There was no way a guy like me could encounter this urban legend in 3D. Yeah, this was just a delusion. It had to be. Guess Who was an urban legend after all. They call them urban legends because nobody actually knows if they're true or not. Ooh, that scared me for a second. I calmed down a little. If this was a delusion, I hoped I woke up soon. It would just make me sad when I got back to real life. Ain't that the truth? No, maybe it would be better to enjoy this sweet romantic urban legend a little more.
ヒントはね、名前に「リ」がつく。
No, I didn't need any hints. I could tell by the voice. I trained myself on identifying voice actors just by listening to their characters. I wasn't even a voice actor otaku, you know. But it's a natural thing for an anime viewer to do. I mean, kinda, yeah.
わからない？ 第2ヒント。名前に「み」がつく。
You just gave me the answer. You're a very stupid girl. Damn, dude. But very, very cute. There was only one reason I wasn't answering. I knew the right answer, but it was embarrassing to say it. Well, this was just a delusion anyway. No need to worry about it.
み。
ピンポ
She let go. I opened my eyes. I turned around, and of course, Remy was standing
ーン。
there.
待たしちゃってごめんね。
Huh? Why wasn't I waking up from my delusion? Normally, there'd be some ending. Like a CRT television turning off. And I'd snap out of it. I tried pinching myself. No, that's how you wake up from a dream. But wait, dreams and delusions aren't that different. So maybe it's not wrong? Wait, now my cheek hurts. Did that mean this was real? I realized it was, and suddenly became extremely embarrassed. I looked down.
どうしたの？顔赤いよ。
I could see Remy's cheeks were a little red too. It was just the light of the setting sun, right?
さあ帰ろう。
That was surprisingly wholesome. Enjoyable. Sarah, you're the worst. Earthquake. R? And then, with perfect timing, there was a knock at the door.
リミ。
I don't think it's gonna be Remy. Something tells me it's not Remy. Remy! Remy had come after all. Feeling salvation at hand, I headed for the door. Then I stopped. Why was she pounding so hard?
リミ。
I called out to whoever was on the other side of the door. The sound suddenly stopped. Silence. There was no answer. Please, say something. Why won't you say something?
リミ。なんでしょう。答えてよ。
There was no answer, but the knocking began again. Wasn't it Remy?
誰だ。誰なんだ。
Was it Shogun? The instant I realized it might not be Remy out there, I got too scared to open the door. I staggered back, bumping into the back of my chair and almost falling over. The knocking continued. Someone was there, pounding on it. No, that wasn't all. Pounding started to come from the side walls and roof as well. Whoever was out there, there was more than just one of them.
誰だよ。
I couldn't take the fear anymore, and I screamed. And then the sound suddenly stopped immediately, as if reacting to my cry. I wanted to run. I wanted to run far, far away. I wanted to get as far away from here as I could. But how? There must be a whole group of people, whoever they were, outside my house. The sound began again. Now it wasn't just knocking. There was the awful sound of scraping claws, too. Not being able to see them just made my fear worse. I knew that Shogun must have sent them, but I couldn't even imagine what the people outside the thin walls looked like. I was overcome with panic. I felt awful, like I was going to throw up. I put my hands tight over my ears.
やめて。やめてよ。許してよ。
I came back to my senses and saw that I was in front of the computer monitor. I gasped and looked around the room. Then, being very careful not to move a muscle, I listened. There was no sound. Was it just a delusion? I spent 5 minutes remaining completely still, listening intently for any sound coming from outside my shipping container. I didn't hear anything, so I tried opening the door and taking a quick peek outside. Nobody was there. Did I just imagine the whole thing? My heart still felt like it was about to burst from fear. I looked back at the monitor. Whew.
Oh my god.
No, I did that one. This one. Senna's hot breath tickled my cheek. They're both, like, weirdly perverted. I can already tell this is gonna be weird. Her face was close enough that I was worried she might bite me. Senna glared at me from up close. Alright. Two of these in one run through is too much. That's too much. That's holy moly. I gotta listen to it again. Something soft was pressed up against my lips. Couldn't understand what had just happened. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to pass out. I tried to run, but Senna was holding me too tight for me to even move. Something, oh my god. It's like a full-on encore. Something soft and wet slipped between my lips. It licked at my gums and intertwined. That's so nasty. It's such a nasty way to describe it. Alright. Licked at my gums and intertwined itself with my tongue, having its way with my mouth. I didn't know what was going on, but for some reason it felt so good. You don't want to be a part of this. You don't want to be a part of this. I don't think you want to be a part of this. Trust me, this is not... I mean, maybe I... Alright. You know what? Here. You give me emotional support. I didn't know what was going on, but for some reason it felt so good. I'm sorry you have to be a part of this. It still hurt to breathe though. Felt like I was going to pass out. Just before everything went black, whatever it was finally withdrew from my mouth. Whatever it was. Unbelievable. Alright, at least this one didn't last like 10 minutes. Oh my god, get off my desk, you goob. That is my desk. Don't press any keys and you can stay. Also get your tail out the frame. And you can stay. The second you start misbehaving, you get booted. Senna's lips were wet with saliva. Alright, if anyone's misbehaving, it's this game. Like, let's sit on my keyboard! Alright. The murder in her eyes was gone, replaced with, no, you're clicking keys, you goob! That's like my one hotkey. Why did you do? How did you know? Alright, stop. No. Don't sit there. You could just not sit in that literal one spot. You can stay. Alright. Had she just kissed me?
お前こそ勇者。お前の力を私に貸せ。私と一緒に戦え。
Don't. That's my microphone. You are not. You are misbehaving. What did I say about that? That's the microphone. You rub against that, you make a really loud noise, and now you're drooling on my desk. All right, you gotta go. Sorry. I love you. I love you. I love you. You gotta go. All right. It was nice to spend this time with. Now you're drooling on me. All right. I don't. Ugh.
拒否するのは許さない。
I I didn't understand what she was saying at all, but she sounded angry. She brought her face close to mine once more. Oh, my mic's over here now. God, stop with the sound. She pushed her lips against mine hard, forcing her tongue into my mouth. Yeah, I know. Stop. Her hot breath and sweet saliva both poured into me. Gross. That's so gross.
私は勇者に純潔を捧げるために生まれてきた巫女だ。
Oh, there's just this extra plot underneath the. Honestly, you probably could have just had it be like, the delusion is she made out with me, but then I love that there's also this extra little like the bonus plot. That's great. I wondered idly what H game she was taking that from.
お前がいないと
No, what H game are you taking this from, my dude?
さあ血の契約を交わそう。
Senna bit my. What is with the biting? The biting and the sucking. Senna bit my lip hard. I winced in pain as the taste of blood filled my mouth.
お前が欲しい。
This wasn't how you were supposed to ask when you wanted something from someone. Yeah, where's the please? What happened to please and thank you? None of what she was saying made any sense either. But the way it seemed like she was almost raping me was really turning me on. Oh my god.
おい、無視するな。
Oh, you're down there now. Okay. I guess that's a good spot for you. I came back to my senses. Senna was still grabbing me hard and pushing me against the playground equipment. Her face was still right up against mine. Our eyes met and I could feel my own face getting hot.
その力のことを誰に教わったんだって聞いているんだ。
I had no memory of being asked that at all. Yeah, you were oh my god, there's cat drool on my controller now. Damn it.
誰か
Crap. Had it happened while I was still fantasizing about her forcing herself on me? I had no idea what was going on, but Senna was still shaking me violently.
誰だ。答えろ。天聖信仰会とは関係あるのか、ないのか。
Cosmic Church of the what now? I shook my head frantically. I couldn't breathe. I was going to suffocate. I was passing out. Dying. I couldn't stay awake. Just before I passed out, Senna suddenly let go of me. I collapsed where I stood. I coughed and tried to force as much air into my lungs as I could. Was Senna my enemy after all? Was she working with Shogun too? If so, I had to get out of here.
関係ないならいい。悪かった。
Senna saw my confusion and looked momentarily annoyed. Oh my god, now there's cat hair in my nose. Then she sighed. She turned to leave. This is what I get for letting my cat in my room while I'm trying to do this. She wanted to be in the room, and I was like, you know what? I usually close the door, but I'll let you be in here if you behave yourself. And she did for like an hour. And then she didn't.
よし、繋がった。
No. So you go fly away. Shogun. Shogun must have brought them all here. They were all being mind controlled. They were all hoping I'd jump off and die. I feel an overwhelming surge of negative emotions slam into me. Wasn't there anybody on my side? Suddenly, I heard a voice call my name in the crowd. It was a voice I'd heard many times before, a voice I knew well, the voice of the only person in the world who was on my side. I wasn't hallucinating it. I wasn't hearing things. It was Remy. Remy was calling to me from somewhere. Where? Where was she? I searched for her as hard as I possibly could, but there were too many people. There was no way to pick out a single person from this crowd, especially from all the way up here. I let my head fall forward helplessly. As it fell, my eyes saw what was right below me. There was a girl there waving both hands and looking up.
Remy!
She was there. She was right there. She came to save me. I was so happy. Everything would be okay now. I nodded again and again. My vision was blurring out from the tears. I kept wiping them away rather than lose sight of her for an instant. But when I looked back to where I'd seen her waving her hands, something was wrong. For some reason, the crowd was closing in around her. The wave of black heads started to swell, with her at its center. Several Dacunes started to reach out and grab her. Oh, Jesus Christ. Please don't go where I think you're going, game. She tried to shake them off, but there were too many people to escape. It was like being in a packed train at morning rush hour, and there were too many people around to even move.
Yose, Remyに手を出すなよ。
I could hear her faint scream. The crowd around her began to get bolder and swelled in number even more. Finally, they began to pull at her clothes. One stripped away her jacket. Is he gonna like pull it? I hope he pulls like a superhero
そん
landing.
なエロゲみたいなことやめて。
Jump in! Superhero landing.
リミ逃げて。そこから逃げろ。それで早く僕を助けに来て。
Nobody heard my prayer. The crowd around her kept growing and growing, and she was helpless before them. Several of the men tore her off her clothes, pulled her hair, dragged her down the street. Jesus Christ. That was the worst. Finally, she disappeared beneath a black mountain of people. The Dacunes were swarming around the spot where she disappeared, like hyenas around an animal's carcass. Oh no, oh no. They were going to rape Remy. The filthy hands of the mind-controlled Dacunes that Shogun had tainted her purity forever. And then, after they raped her, they would kill her. I started to cry, a bit down hard on my lip. They went exactly where I thought they were gonna go. I wasn't crying out of sadness or frustration at what had happened to her. I was crying in fear at the realization that now every single person here was my enemy. There was no way I could escape now. Oh boy, that was fun. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Alright. I saw a sword. I saw a sword clearly. I can move from here. I can get it. Nope. Sure can't. No. It's not actually a sword yet. That is correct. Alright, and we have officially reached the delusion trigger I have dubbed Sarah sucks. Because Sarah sucks. And I don't like her. But Nanami. Hey, Sarah. Go away forever, please. I hate you. The truth of what Sarah Tan said stopped me in my tracks. One moment, I have to let my dumb cat out. She's gonna... He's gonna be over here whining if I don't. Go, dingus. Go, dingus McGringus. Get your booty moving. Ugh. Hi, I'm back. Don't listen to Sarah. She was right. No, she wasn't. Even if I saved Nanami here, I knew exactly what she'd say.
お兄のせいでこんな目にあったんだからねバカ
She wouldn't be grateful. She'd just be mean. I'd spent the rest of my life with my whole family hating me. At the end of the day, she was just a 3D sister. She wasn't Moe. She wasn't pretty like a 3D character. She was always looking down on me. She was always secretly, no, openly making fun of me. Whatever happened to that little brat wasn't my problem. Don't listen to this pink-haired witch! Maybe I could risk my life for Seiratan, but not her.
タッキー自分のことだけ考えよう私はさタッキーに死んでほしくないのこうしてずっとタッキーの脳内で二人きりでお話し続けたいんよ
I want that too. I don't. Talking to Seiratan was what made me happiest. What happened to Nanami didn't matter. For shame, Takumi. For shame. Yeah, Sarah sucks. Like, the spreadsheet doesn't lie. I also titled this one Hazuki Sucks because I couldn't think of anything else, and Hazuki also sucks. But in a different way, you know? Speaking of... the greenery. Hazuki's eyes were wide open, and she was looking at me closely.
まさか西条さんが目覚めるなんて。
She was making it sound like it would be strange for me to wake up. Or was that a joke? Was she trying to say that a loser like me would be better off spending the rest of his life asleep, so he didn't bother anybody else? If even my nurse was trying to tell me that I was a loser, maybe I would be better off dead. But Hazuki's words were the exact opposite of what I'd expected.
あなたはこの1ヶ月近くずっと昏睡状態だったんですよ。原因不明のまま眠り続けていたんです。
What? When was 1 month ago?
今日って。
落ち着いて聞いてくださいね。今日は10月28日です。
October 28th. That matched with my memories perfectly. 1 month ago would have been the day I witnessed the crucified murder. I fell silent in pure shock.
あ、そうだ。先生に伝えないといけませんよね。こんなにのんびり検温してる場合じゃなかったわ。ここで待っていてくださいね。すぐに先生を呼んできますから。
She ran out of the room in a hurry before I had the chance to even speak.
僕が1ヶ月昏睡状態だった。
I whispered, staring down at my hands. Did that mean that everything that had happened in the past month was all a dream? That would certainly be a surprising ending. But it didn't bother me. I should have found it harder to accept, but strangely, I didn't. All that stuff about the D-swords and delusions becoming reality, all that was impossible when I thought about it. It was all hallucination, just a delusion I'd made up. It was a shame that my meeting with Rimi was just a dream. But Shogun wasn't trying to kill me. All of Japan wasn't laughing at me. And Rimi hadn't been kidnapped.
よかった。
Wait, did he mean Nanami? I think he meant Nanami. Rimi, yeah, Nanami was the one who was kidnapped. He's tired. Give him a break. He's a little confused. Just when my vision started to blur from tears building up in my eyes, and I tilted my head upward to keep them from overflowing. Hazuki came in, looking a little surprised.
あら。西条さん、目が覚めたんですね。
She smiled gently at me. I couldn't move. I was too confused.
お体の調子はどうですか？
She offered me a thermometer. I took it without really thinking about what was going on.
体温を測ってくださいね。
I gulped a little as I took the thermometer. It was the same. This was the same thing that had just happened a moment ago. Hazuki was acting like she'd just come into this room for the first time. I patted my armpit gingerly, scared at what I might find. I just put the thermometer under it a second ago, but it wasn't there. The other thermometer was gone. Was what I just experienced a delusion? How much was a delusion and how much was reality? Was Shogun still trying to kill me? Was the entire country laughing at me? Instantly, I started to feel miserable and depressed. That was a real bummer of a fake out. It's like, oh, thank God, none of it was real. Just kidding, it was. Sucks to be you. Good old Hazuki sucks. Tried killing them all in my brain to see if it would make me feel better, but it didn't. It wasn't enough to avenge my humiliation. They were still looking at me too, taunting me with voices so loud they echoed throughout the entire class.
お前なんで死なないの？生きてんのきつくね？俺ら手伝ってやろうか。
Man, kids are mean. What a gross thing to say to another person. Icky. Mean, not very nice. Do not like. I put my hands tight over my ears and tried my best to endure their taunts. I wanted to kill them. I wanted to murder them all with my D-sword. I imagined my blade splitting open their heads, ripping out their hearts, and splitting their bodies in two. Die. 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 I didn't have a D-sword, but I could buy a big kitchen knife anywhere. I wanted to stamp out their worthless maggot lives myself. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, we all had those days. What does that say? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
5分くらいなのら。
I see. So it's a delusion then. So those blood-covered Dokuns were probably a delusion too.
妄想でもないもん。
It has to be a delusion though. Just like Seiratan. The voice had to be coming from some new wife that I'd made up for myself.
コズピーは西条くんのお嫁さんになった覚えはないよ。
That's really funny, actually.
っていうか、タッキー浮気しちゃダメっしょ。私だけ見ててほしいのに。このボケなす。
Don't worry, Seiratan. You're still my wife. And anyway, I didn't recognize this kind of stupid-sounding Kozupi character at all. Mean.
ぽい？ぽい？でも本当に幻聴や妄想じゃなくて。
So what is it then? Don't tell me it's Don't tell me it's the transfer student in front of me. She looks like she's trembling in terror. She gave a little nod. Huh? No way. That was just a coincidence, right? Or maybe she'd only looked like she nodded and I was mistaken.
だからコズピーがコズピーなの。
That's impossible. There's no such thing as telepathy.
どうしたら信じてくれるの？
What the heck does unyo mean? She makes the funniest noises. For some reason, the transfer student looked sad too. It was strange. Crap, this was getting aggravating. Fine, Kozupi. Prove you're the transfer student.
証明
Tell me your... Tell me your measurements.
西条くん変態体なのら
So, you can't answer, huh? Which means you are a delusion. Checkmate!
コズピー自分のスリーサイズなんてあまり測ったことないの
Okay, just... okay, just the bust then. Give me a general number.
恥ずかしいのら
This conversation that was taking place in my brain was so perverted. I was kind of freaking out myself.
73くらいです
Transfer student did appear to be completely flat, so that matched. By the way, I liked flat girls too. Also, how does that prove anything? If he thinks this voice is like a character he made up in his head, he's looking at this individual. So obviously the voice in his head would know what he knows, right? Like, am I crazy? Probably at this point. For some reason, the transfer student's face was bright red. Her tiny body seemed to get even smaller as she shrank back from me. It was just a coincidence, yeah? Her voice and her reactions were linked, but it was just by chance. And anyway, that didn't prove anything, that's what I'm saying. So why'd you ask?
ちゃんと答えたの
So dumb. But how would I know what the transfer student's bra size actually was, though? If I told her to let me measure it, she'd call the cops on me. Fine, what's your birthday? What is that? How does that help? What is his game plan?
11月13日だよ
Well, I had no way of knowing if that was true either. If I was social enough to be capable of asking a girl I'd barely even met what her birthday was, I would have had a girlfriend a long time ago. Is that how easy it is? Is it that easy? Is that what dating is? You go up to people and ask what their birthday is? And then boom, dating? I did not realize it was that simple. Suddenly, the transfer student started to rummage through her bag. She took out something and offered it. It was a student notebook, and a brand new one, too. I flipped open the front page to see a photo of her and the name Kozue Orihara, along with her birthday. Her birthday. I checked the date. It read November 13th. Well, there you go.
嘘でしょ
Come to think of it, this name, according to her student notebook, her name was Kozue Orihara. Kozue. Kozupi.
まさか
だから最初からそう言ってたのらコズピーなの
So this wasn't a delusion? Oh my lord. It's,
だから価値はなくないよ
That thing was way too big to be... Oh, god damn it. That thing was way too big to be swinging around indoors. There were other people around her, too. If she hurt someone, it could be really bad. Watching her holding it made me feel like I was going to have a heart attack. Whether she knew of my worries or not, Kozupi lowered the blade from above her head and began to spin. She looked like she was having the time of her life.
これがコズピーの剣だよ悪い人をやっつけるのら
It's the lamest looking one, I'm sorry. Beats up the bad people? Something about her words made my heart start beating faster. Something was wrong. Oh yeah, this chick is crazy. Senna frowned for a moment before taking the winning stick.
ありがと
I was shocked into silence. I'd never in a million years imagined Senna would say something like that to me. Senna must not have realized how I felt, because she gave me a quick look and said,
う。お前優しいな。
She whispered that before turning away from me just as quickly. Did I imagine it, or were her cheeks a little red? Anyway, since she'd said thanks, my opinion of her had changed a little. I thought she was scary, but she could actually be pretty cute.
セナさんは今ので今ので
Is she just like thought tattling right now? Kozupi spun around where she was standing and looked at the two of us with a happy smile.
たくみさんのこと好きになっちゃったのら
小杖、何をバカな。
Thought tattletale.
顔がプッポーってなってるの
Oh,
うるさいうるさい。
hey, that line just now. That was right out of Azure-Eyed June, the original Tsundere game. When I let my grin show on my face, Senna pointed a finger at me.
お前もニヤニヤしてるんじゃない。
I'd never seen Senna be so cute like this. I guess it was because she was so flustered. Feeling mischievous, I never did figure out how to pronounce that word. I think it's mischievous. Feeling mischievous, I decided to play a little trick on her. I think I pronounced it mischievous my entire life, but now I'm looking at it, I don't think that's right.
悪い。
どの辺が
美味しいだろ。
それだけ
あと可愛い。
Senna still pouted as she spoke, even though that didn't make any sense.
かわいいかわいい
Could a popsicle really be cute?
アイスがじゃないからな。ガルガリ君が可愛いんだ。
I see. She meant the brand's mascot. Was he cute?
あのイガグリ頭が最高だ。
I don't know what he looks like, so I
抱
can't
きしめて
judge.
頬ずりしたくなる。
That's adorable. Senna's eyes were those of a maiden in love. Well, everybody has their own preferences, I guess. That's funny. Oh, I think that was a new thing. Bon arrived at Frisia 30 minutes after the time Momose requested he be there. Momose yelled as soon as he arrived. Bon shrugged and gave her a half-hearted smile as he walked over to her desk. He hadn't brought her any sweets today, a decision which he was beginning to regret. Burning in the pits of hell, I hope. No, just...
若い子をこき使ってバンちゃんは楽してるわけね。
いやいや、俺もちゃんとやってるよ。昨日だって徹夜でいろいろ調べてたんだぜ。おかげで最近の女子高生の生態についてはかなり詳しくなった。
あんたね、呆れて物も言えないわ。
で、こうして俺を呼びつけたってことは、あの子と連絡取れたってこと？
今来てるわ。
さすがももちゃん。ちなみに可愛い子かい？
Come on, Bon. Momose gave the grinning Bon a slap on the head. She put her wrist into it too, and it hurt pretty bad.
いつまでもバカなこと言ってんじゃないわよ、エロ親父。
I'm just sad again.
冗談だって。
Bon had asked Momose for a favor. He wanted to talk to somebody involved in the Nugent cases directly, and had asked Frisia to make it happen. His questions were, for the moment, not going to be directly linked to the police investigation. He couldn't talk to her in an official capacity, at least not without somehow getting the rest of the team involved. Momose headed for a corner of the office, motioning for Bon to follow her. There was a small space there, surrounded by shelves lined with files. The space served as a meeting room for talking with clients. There were 2 sofas, each with room for 2 people, and both far too big for the cramped little area. When Bon followed Momose inside, he saw a girl sitting there. She was wearing a Suime Academy uniform. Her shoulders were slumped and she was looking down. She looked exhausted.
ごめんね。お待たせしちゃって。
The girl looked up in surprise when Momose spoke. Her glasses fell forward a little as she adjusted them with her fingers.
あ、いえ、平気です。
She looked a little scared as she bowed shallowly to Bon. He was kind of hurt by this. Bon always tried his hardest to try and come off as unthreatening. He realized, though, that he must still be giving off the intimidating air of a professional police officer, though. It's something he would have to keep working on, he realized.
楠木優愛さんだね。
はい。
亡くなった美愛さんの双子の姉。それで間違いないかな。
Yua flinched a little before nodding. The first new-gen case was the group dive. One of the victims who jumped was a girl named Mia Kusunoki.
まあ、そんな緊張しなさんな。君を取り調べようなんて思っちゃねえんだ。雑談程度に思ってよ。本題に入る前に、ちょっと聞いていいかい？ゆあちゃんは妹さんが亡くなったことについてどう思う？
ちょっとバンちゃん。
あ、悪いね。職業病ってやつか。気を使うような言い方できなくってな。ただ、気になってたんだ。捜査本部でも話題になってたんだが、楠木美也さんの遺族は奇妙だって。
ばあちゃん！
いえ、いいんです。
Momose had almost leapt out of her chair at Bon's rude question, but Yua herself stopped her.
私もおかしいって思いますから。
ああ。
集団ライブで飛び降りた5人には自殺する理由なんてなかった。家族や友人はみんなそう主張している。だが、ミヤさんの家族だけは違った。
Bon took his fan out of his belt and began to wave it at his face.
何も主張しなかった。あっさり受け入れたって聞いてる。あまりに何も言わなさすぎて奇妙だったってな。なんでだい？
お父さんもお母さんもミヤちゃんが死んでからおかしくなっちゃったんです。
There was pain in her voice.
最初はミヤちゃんの事件の知らせを受けた日はそれでも泣いていたんです。お父さんもお母さんもとても辛そうでした。でも次の日の朝、なぜか二人は楽しそうに笑っていたんです。ミヤちゃんが死ぬ前と全く同じに戻ってたんです。たった一日で。私、わけがわからなくて、二人はミヤちゃんのこと忘れようとしてるんじゃないかって思って。そうしたらお父さんが笑いながら、お前に妹なんていないよって。ミヤちゃんが残した洋服とか靴とかを見せても全然取り合ってくれないんです。それはお前のために予備で買ってあったものだって。そうやってお父さんたちはニュースからも警察の話からも目を背けて、記憶からミヤちゃんのことを消し去ろうとしてるんです。
つまり双子じゃなかったことに？
それで警察にもうちは一人っ子だって言って追い返してたわけか。
私とミヤちゃんは一卵性で、見た目は瓜二つなんですけど、あの子は、妹は親から嫌われていました。あの子はいつも自分の気持ちを押し殺して、私のことを一番に考えてくれていたんです。
As Yua talked, she remembered the memories of her old life. For example, one year when she was in elementary school, her parents had bought a present, a single giant stuffed bear. Yua was excited, but Mia had said she didn't like stuffed animals and ignored it. Her parents had disliked how Mia refused to act like a little child should. Still, Yua had quietly offered to share the stuffed animal with her, but Mia had refused. I don't need a stuffed animal. You can have it, was all she said. A month or so later, though, when Yua had gotten tired of the stuffed animal, she'd woken late at night to see something surprising. Mia was holding the stuffed bear and talking to it, such a happy look on her face. Yua had never seen her sister look so happy. It was only then Yua realized her sister was lying about not wanting the bear. She'd been lying so that her sister could have it all to herself. The picture of the bear! The next day, Yua looked under Mia's pillow and found a cute picture of a bear she'd drawn. Mia had been sleeping with it in her arms after Yua got tired of the stuffed animal. Things like that had happened over and over again for the past 18 years. It was always Yua who blew out the candles on the birthday cake. Mia would say, "That's stupid, I'm not doing it," and her parents would get angry. Yua had made it into Suime Academy, a private school, but Mia had deliberately behaved badly in class, lowering her grades and making sure she got sent to a public one. Her parents hadn't had the money to send both of them to private schools. No matter what Yua tried to do for Mia, Mia would always put her big sister first, even if it meant making other people hate her. None of this is new information, but I'm gonna go ahead and just roll with it. And also, the bear thing gets me. The bear thing does still pull at my heartstrings.
ミヤちゃんがいなくなって初めてもっとあの子のために何かできることがあったはずだってすごく後悔して私が代わりに知ってあげればよかったしかも挙句に親に存在そのものを忘れられてしまうなんてこんなのあんまりですあんまりにも
That was all the talking she could do. She took off her glasses and put her hands over her eyes as she began to cry. Momose sat next to her, kindly patting her on the back.
それでユアちゃんは一人で事件のことを調べていたらしいの。ミヤちゃんに一体何があったのか知るためにね。
そりゃ大変だったろう。
そして一人の人物を突き止めた。
あ？
Momose looked over to Bond, still holding Yua close.
西条匠くんよ。
なるほどね。
Bond stroked the stubble on his chin and leaned forward.
いつだったか西条と追跡劇をしてたっていう女子高生の話を所轄のデカから聞いたんだが、もしかしてユアちゃんだったりする？
She nodded, looking like she was sorry.
ああ、興味あるな。詳しく聞かせてもおうと思ったけどちょっとごめんよ。
Bond chuckled and bobbed his head at Yua and Momose. He'd been cut off by the sound of his phone, coming from within his suit pocket. He quickly took it out and looked at the LCD screen. It was showing Sua's name.
もしもし、どうした？
先輩、7番目っす。
なんだと？
Sua's voice was tense. Bond could hear the sound of other police officers frantically running around him. From the sound of it, Sua was at the station.
ニュージェネ第7の事件が起きたんすよ。
Bond's eyes went wide, and then he bit his lip bitterly. Momose and Yua could tell from his demeanor that something had happened, and were looking at him worried.
ガイシャは3人、友人同士らしいっす。3人とも胴体から体が切断されてて、それぞれの上半身と下半身を別々に入れ替えてテグス、スリートっすね。それで縫い付けられてたっす。それと額にそれぞれ Q、D、N って読める傷が。
何かのメッセージか？
さあ、そこまでは。それと気になることが。司法解剖の結果は分かったんですけど、ガイシャの胴体の切断部はノコギリとか包丁とかそういう刃物で切断されたものじゃないって。
どういう意味だ？
なんか強い力で引きちぎられたそうっす。
ちぎられた。
Bond repeated to himself as he scratched his head violently with the hilt of the fan.
まるで怪獣だな。あるいは最近流行りの魔法使いとかな。
先輩、それマジで言ってんすか？映画オタクの自分でもさすがにその意見には同意しかねるっす。
なんなら例えだバカが。映画らさっさと捜査に戻れ。
He hung up the phone. By the time, yeah, I don't know why it treated that like that was new, like that was a new information. I feel like this is a new background I haven't seen, so something tells me this is gonna be new. But like, I knew all that. I knew all that stuff that just happened. By the time Yua finished her conversation with Momose and Ban left Frisia. Oh, got it. By the time Yua finished her conversation with Momose and Ban left Frisia, the sky was dark. Got it. Pacing of a sentence. Got it. She told them everything she suspected about Takumi Nishijo and showed them all the research she'd done. A police detective and the head of a private investigation company. If the two of them could be persuaded, the police might go arrest Takumi Nishijo, or at least she'd hoped so. Takumi Nishijo needed to be arrested. She knew how much he was suffering, so she wanted him to turn himself in. But since he wasn't willing to, she'd have to get the police to arrest him. That had been what she'd thought anyway. But surprisingly, Ban had told her that Takumi Nishijo wasn't a suspect anymore. It was unbelievable, something she didn't want to accept. Yeah, he said that in... Interesting. So there was less... Alright. Why would they refuse to believe her theory? It was so clear that Takumi Nishijo was behind the murders. Yua bit her lip and headed toward the station at a fast pace. She needed to get home and do more research. She needed to find proof they couldn't ignore. Then she'd show it to Ban and prove she was right. As if we needed more scenes with this guy. Also, I accidentally closed my entire Chrome window. God damn it. Oh my god, please. Why am I bad at computering? Alright, fixed. Someone called her name out of nowhere. She jerked a little and then stopped moving. Shibuya's not safe these days. Girls, make sure you're not alone at night. She remembered the teacher telling her that during homeroom and froze stiff. The man who'd called out to her was young and friendly looking. And I hate his guts. She recognized him from somewhere, but she couldn't remember where. I want to punch him in his stupid asymmetrical face. He pulled out a police badge from his pocket, just high enough for her and no one else to see. Then he quickly put it away.
集団ダイブの後、一度楠木さんのお宅に伺ったことはありますよ。その時にゆあちゃんともいろいろお話ししたんすけどね。
すいません、思い出しました。その説はどうも。
Yua bowed to him. She'd been a mess after the incident. She didn't remember his face at all. But she did remember a detective who was nice enough to listen to everything she had to say. That was the conversation where she'd realized how bizarre her sister's death was. In that respect, she was grateful to him.
さっきまでバン刑事と一緒だったんじゃないですか？
バンさんとお知り合いなんですか？
そりゃ同じ警視庁捜査一課っすから。自分の先輩っすよ。いつも怒られてます。よっぽど若い女の子と話せるのが嬉しかったんすね。ここだけの話っすけど、今日ゆあちゃんと会うって自分に教えてくれた時の先輩、鼻の下伸ばしちゃってどう見てもスケベ親父って感じだったっす。
You don't get to make jokes,
で
Sua.
きれば自分も同
You
席
don't
したかったんですけ
get
ど
to make jokes.
捜査から抜け出せなくて。そうそう、ゆあちゃんのご両親には連絡行ってるんすかね。多分行ってると思うんすけど。どうかな。
連絡と言いますと？
ああ、いや、集団ダイブのね、犯人が使ったと思われる遺留品が見つかったんすよ。
本当ですか？
Yua hadn't heard anything about this. She found herself edging closer to him.
ええ、どんなものだ
Now
と
keep
思
your
うっすか？
distance.
ま、最近別の事件でマスコミが散々取り上げてるんで有名だと思うんすけど、なんとダーススパイダーのヘルメットっす。
それを集団ダイブの犯人もかぶっていたんですか？
そう、ネットに事件の様子を撮影したビデオが流出したっすよね。あれを解析した結果分かったんすよ。それにしてもダーススパイダーといえば例の渋谷エスパー騒動の少年が有名っすよね。西条匠くんでしたっけ。なんで彼が集団ダイブの犯人と同じようにダーススパイダーのヘルメットを持ってたんすかね。
When she heard these words, black emotions welled up inside her. It was something like certainty now. Just a bit ago, Ban and Momose had been telling her that her theory was wrong. The fact that they'd rejected it only made her more certain now that this was the final piece of the puzzle. Sua, you
さてと、それじゃあ自分フリージアに行くんで、
manipulative
この辺で失礼します。
piece of shit. After he was finished talking, Sua waved and moved off. Waved and walked off. Yua was left alone. She stood there, unmoving, head slumped forward.
彼だわ。
She whispered softly, to no one in particular.
彼なの。やっぱり彼だった。彼しかいない。彼に間違いない。彼が妹を殺したのよ。彼がミアを殺したのよ。
She does that thing where she like repeats the like rephrases things and says it over and over and over. Curious if that's just a random quirk of hers or if that's like a plot thing. A new nice guy? Is this different? This might be different. No, we've done this before. Yeah. That's really dumb. Alright, the seventh murder. Again, I remember this. I guess, like, there's gonna be slight differences, I guess, so. Another one, another new gen murder. How long was this going to keep happening? Would the next one be the one where they finally got me? Or the one after that? Anyway, had Grimm gotten a job at the new gen advertising division or something? He was constantly telling me about them whenever one happened. Once again, he'd posted a bunch of links to news sites too. This must have been his way of telling me to look at them. I clicked the link and bit down hard on my lip. Did you click the link? Goob. Just leave it be. Yummy hand. Ugh.
今日午前4時50分頃、東京都渋谷区の線路沿いで男性3人の他殺死体が鉄柱に吊り下げられているのを通りかかった新聞販売員の男性が発見しました。警察の調べによりますと、殺されたのはいずれも渋谷区に住む無職藤田康平さん、大学生の安沢三郎さん、とび職の高木亮さんの3人です。3人とも胴体の部分が切断され、それぞれの上半身と下半身が別々に入れ替えられて糸で縫合されていました。3人の額にはそれぞれ謎の傷がつけられており、警察では犯人からのメッセージではないかと見て調べています。渋谷では2ヶ月ほど前から猟奇殺人事件が頻発しており、警察では今回の事件も同一犯による犯行の可能性が高いとみて捜査を続けています。
The last video I saw showed the faces of the 3 murdered men. I recognized their faces.
あいつらだ。昨日僕に絡んできた。
I gave them my wallet, but they'd still attacked me anyway. I passed out, and when I woke up, Kozupi was there. The 3 of them were covered in blood. I took my wallet out of my pocket and stared at it. When I'd woken up, Kozupi was holding my wallet, and she'd given it back to me. Could she be the one who... No, that wasn't right. When I'd seen them last, their faces were smashed up, and they were covered in blood, but they certainly weren't sliced in half. They'd been killed after Kozupi and I had left. Was it Shogun? Was he taunting me? Telling me that I was next? There was a chance that Shogun would come back. He seemed to be coming after me with some sort of game, which meant the next quest might start whenever he felt like it. That scared me. Rimi, help me. Where'd she gone? Wasn't she supposed to protect me? I don't think it's Rimi. Somebody was here. I looked at the clock on my computer. It was just after 8 in the evening. Who could be coming at this hour? Rimi. It had to be Rimi. She'd finally come to save me. She'd said she'd stay with me. Of course she'd come. She'd certainly taken her time, though. I hurried to the door, feeling that salvation was at hand. I undid the padlock, locking the door from the inside. Then I flung open the door.
Rim!
I tried to say Rimi's name, but suddenly somebody put a hand over my mouth. In an instant, I started to panic. I didn't even get to see who it was. I tried to knock the hand away, but before I could, they pressed their body weight against me, and I started to stagger backwards. I tried as hard as I could to stay standing. I flailed my hands about, trying to stay upright. I lowered my head and bit their hand as hard as I could. Whoever they weren't saying a word. They kept trying to press themselves up against me. I was biting pretty hard, but their hand wasn't budging. They pushed me back and tripped me, and I fell, unable to stay upright anymore. I hit the back of my head hard and almost passed out. My vision was swimming, and I couldn't even tell what position I was lying on the floor in. They still had their hand up against my mouth. It was hard to breathe. Did I say it was hard to breath? It was hard to breath. As my mind started to slip into the darkness, I used up all the energy I had to look up at the face of the person in front of me. Oh, I don't like that look on her face. She is scary. Yua? That's right. I'd forgotten about her, right? She just disappears out of the story. Like, for a little bit. That's really funny. I'd almost forgotten about her. As did we all. So I've been so focused on Shogun that I'd forgotten about her, his servant. Panic seized me. I struggled and tried as hard as I could to escape. But Yua's whole body weight was on top of me, and I couldn't get up. The girl was pressing herself up against me, but there was no time to get horny over it. Priorities, man. I didn't have it in me to enjoy the feeling of her body. Well, at least there's that. Also, that look on her face is terrifying. The only thing in my mind was an instinctive fear that if I didn't run, I'd be killed. There was a little trickle of blood falling from her hand from where I'd bit her. My eyes itchy. But she was still pressing as hard as before. Her hands were incredibly strong. She was pressing my jaw as hard as she could, and even digging her nails into my cheek. I was hit by a stabbing pain. Lady, you need to calm the hell down. I could hear her whisper between ragged breaths, and I shivered. I grabbed a tuft of her long hair and yanked it, trying to fight back. She winced, but still didn't get off. With her open hand, she grabbed the hand I was using to pull her hair and dug her nails into it too. Jesus Christ. It hurt so bad. I let go. When I did, she pinned my hand to the floor. The glasses had tilted slightly on her nose during our struggle. I could see tears in her eyes from when I pulled at her hair. But her eyes were endlessly cold as she stared at me, just like at Shoto Park. What was she talking about? She's still saying I was the new gen killer? I didn't kill anybody. She was the one who was here to kill me. Staring back into her cold gaze was terrifying. I learned in that moment that you shouldn't lock eyes with crazy people. There are some eyes that are just abnormal, insane. I looked away, praying to wake up from this nightmare, but... Her face got closer. I could feel her unsteady breathing on my cheeks. Oh, you're scary. Her breath was so hot. She was so close that even if I looked away, she'd still be in my field of vision. Oh my god, my eye. There's something in my eye. I thought about giving her a headbutt, but I was pinned too tightly to try. DID, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities. That's what she'd said at At Cafe when we'd fought like this. But that was just her delusion. How could Yuen know more about me than I knew myself?
自覚できていないの？何も知りませんでしたって許されると思ってるの？今まで何度も忠告してきたのにどうして聞いてくれないの？あなたの中にはもう一人の人格将軍がいる。その人格は許されないことをしている。
I mean, it's funny, she's half right. It's just not inside him. It's outside him.
これ以上放置はできない。
Like, there is another Takumi. You're right. You're wrong about everything else, though, unfortunately. Being played like a simple pawn.
将軍を放置することは西条君の罪よ。あなたも人殺しに加担しているんだって理解して。
Actually, you are right now, currently. I can't understand that.
理解できるよね。
I haven't killed anybody.
理解してもらわなきゃ困る。
I don't have multiple personalities.
理解すべきよ。
Multiple personalities only exist in manga and novels. I refuse to accept it. Well, that's actually not true, but...
私はあなたと話がしたいの。聞こえているんでしょう？将軍。
Shogun's not me. It's a real person, a different person. He uses a wheelchair and shows up at weird times. And he's always reading my mind, and he's got a voice like a little kid and wrinkled skin like an old man. He's my enemy. He's not me. Just the thought makes me sick. Huh? And wait, didn't Yua work for Shogun? I thought she did. But it looked like she really thought I was Shogun.
西条君、自重して。あなたは少し眠っていて、将軍にその体を渡して。
I can't do that. I don't have multiple personalities. I tried to tell her that, but with her hand over my mouth, all that came out were muffled moans.
出てきなさい。出てきて。出てきて。出られないの？出てこられるはずよ。出たいでしょ。
Oh my god, she's so crazy!
出てこい。人殺し。
Man, and people say that Ayase is the crazy chick. Look at this shit! I started to cry. My body went limp. I didn't have the strength to resist. I was just tired. Why? Why does all this stuff have to happen to me? Why does she have to say all this crap to me? What did I ever do to you? This wasn't fair. This crazy delusional woman was stalking me. There was nobody here to save me. Was she going to kill me here? Even if I didn't make it through today, there was no guarantee I'd survive tomorrow. Shogun could appear at any moment. Was I going to have to spend the rest of my life living in fear and jumping at shadows? Please, no. I don't want to keep living this life. Maybe I'd be better off going crazy. Maybe I'd be better off dead. What kind of dumb-ass question is that? You crazy kook. She slowly took her hand off my mouth. She lifted her body off my chest. With the weight gone, I felt a lot better.
将軍が出てきたの？
I shook my head limply.
誰なんだ。いっそ殺せ。
殺さない。私が殺させない。あなたは罪を償うべきなのよ。そして真実を語るべき。死んで逃げることは許さない。許さないわ。
許すわけにはいかないの。
将軍は別にいる。ニュージェネの犯人はそいつだよ。
将軍はあなたよ。あなたなの。あなたしか考えられない。
Nothing I said was getting through to her. She was only interested in her own ideas. She was convinced that they were completely right. There was no sense in resisting.
将軍、出てきて。出てきてよ。出てきてって言ってるでしょ。どうして出てこないの？あなたがそこにいるのは分かって
This
る。
is like actually horrifying right now.
絶対に将軍を引き出してみせるわ。
Yikes.
私は諦めないから。それまで絶対に逃がさないから。
Suddenly, she stood up and closed the container's open door. She leaned over and picked up the padlock and locked it. Then she put the key in her uniform pocket. What was she doing? What was this girl thinking?
逃がさないから。
Oh. Got that JoJo pose. She whispered coldly, as if she was talking to herself, not me. Oh boy. There were a lot of fast food spots in Shibuya, but all of them were filled with young people. It took a lot of courage for a middle-aged man to come there alone. He felt out of place, like he didn't belong. Yasuji-ban thought these things to himself as he sat there drinking his coffee. Surrounding him were groups of teenagers talking happily. The coffee in the paper cup was already cold. There was a clear plastic file on his table. Inside was the vast number of memos he'd taken, and a few copies that he'd made of the official investigation reports. Of the latter, there weren't very much. Oh my god. He'd been here for over an hour. He'd been here for an hour, alone, going over his notes again. As for why he was doing it in such a public place, just the other day, he'd been taken off the New Gen task force, but he was still investigating it on his own. The copies he'd made, which of course were certainly not be removed from the police building, what? The copies he'd made, which of course were certainly not be removed from the police building, were not to be okay, I think I get it. Had several images attached to them. The images showed one of the victims of the group dive, the first New Gen case, Mia Kusunoki. Ban had taken an interest in her after speaking with her older sister Yue yesterday. After what she'd said about Mia, he decided to look into her himself. Originally, he was focused on... He was... Oh boy. Originally, like, okay. 50% of the time, I can't tell if I'm just misreading it and, like, because I'm tired or I'm, like, getting tongue-tied or whatever. So I have to be like, okay, does it actually say that? And it does. Originally, he was focused the rumors about the strange girl with the sword that were going around Shibuya, and this was only a secondary concern. But after going through all the documents, something felt strange. Now I'm getting paranoid and, like, I'm expecting typos. There were little things which, when viewed in isolation, were easy to miss. Maybe they didn't matter. Maybe they had nothing to do with the case. But when viewed as parts of a whole, they just felt wrong. The feeling was especially strong after hearing what Yue had said yesterday. He looked at the document in front of him. It read, "After the dive, glasses were found among Mia Kusunoki's possessions." Did she not wear glasses? That was what bothered him. He thought through all the things the task force had found during its investigations. He took a sip of his coffee and sighed. Not a single picture of Mia Kusunoki taken before she died showed her wearing glasses. Oh boy. It was always Yue, her older sister, who wore glasses. He had the results of Mia's physicals too. They all showed her with vision of 1.5 in both eyes. There was no reason at all for her to wear glasses. Unlike her social butterfly of a sister, Mia Kusunoki was a quiet girl who liked anime. That matched with what Yue Kusunoki had said about her. The kids who died in the group dive were all friends, but according to the information he had, they hadn't met in real life until the day they died. They were all internet friends who decided to meet up in real life. Of course, their online conversations had all been tracked down and analyzed. There was nothing in them to indicate that they were going to commit suicide. And several hours before the incident, 2 teenage girls, likely twins, had been entering a fast food place in Shibuya. Bon looked around. The fast food restaurant where they'd been seen was this one. He talked to the witness, an employee here, just a little while ago. They talked for a while before they'd gone into the bathroom together. They hadn't come out for 10 minutes or so. What had they been doing in the bathroom? He stared at the girls' bathroom for a few moments before realizing that he probably looked like a weird old pervert to the kids around him. He chuckled and went back to looking out the window. Were they pulling like a swap? Like an identity swap? 18 hours had passed since you had broken into my room. I was tied up to one of my bunk bed's poles with my hands behind my back. Fortunately, I'd been tied up sitting down, so it wasn't that tiring, but the cords were digging into my wrists. I'd been more or less out of it for about 3 of the 18 hours, but since I hadn't been able to get any real sleep, I was having trouble keeping my eyes open. Damn it. I'm not into bondage, okay? Find somebody else to tie up. Yua was sitting on the sofa, staring at me. She'd been there all night. All she did was sit there and glare at me. Didn't she get tired? What was the point of all this anyway? Yua was convinced I had DID, but I didn't. No matter how long she waited, Shogun wasn't going to show up. After she'd tied me up, she'd given me a chance to talk. I'd used it to try and convince her. I'd spent hours on it, but she wasn't listening. She was so stubborn that after a few hours, I finally gave up. And then...
あなたが将軍を生み出したんです。あなたが将軍なんです。
I mean, that you created Shogun. Flip that and you got it, actually, as it turns out.
現実逃避の手段。
But the other Shogun, the one that isn't a murderer. Man, it's confusing. It's...
将軍はあなた自身であり、同時にあなたではない別の存在。もう一人のあなた。あなたの負の側面。あなたの弱い心を守るための存在。あなたの狂気。快楽殺人者。手段は選ばない。殺す相手も選ばない。殺すことが存在理由。誰でもよかったんですか？本当にミーアはなぜ選ばれたんですか？答えて、答えてよ。答えてください。答えてほしい。答えないと許しません。
She kept whispering the same things over and over. She sounded crazy. This was a small room, and I couldn't put my hands over my ears either. I was forced to listen. I thought I would go crazy myself. I tried to come up with a way to run. I tried telling her that I needed to go to the bathroom, and seeing if I could escape that way. But it didn't work. She untied me and let me go to the bathroom, but she didn't give me a moment's privacy. Even when I was using the toilet, she was watching me from right behind. That's upsetting. And she was still whispering, too. Yikes. How long was she going to keep this up? It was possible that she might decide to change her mind and just kill me at any minute. It wasn't safe for me to go to sleep. Of course, even awake, I didn't think I could protect myself.
何がきっかけ？どうすれば出てくるんですか？肉体的苦痛？精神的苦痛？
There's no trigger, you fucking psycho!
性的衝動？トラウマ？偶然？
And then, she suddenly fell silent. She was still staring at me, though. The room was dead silent. The silence just made me more nervous. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a rumbling belly. I was hungry too, since I hadn't had anything to eat or drink, but it wasn't me. So Yua was hungry then. Of course, even though she must have known I'd heard her stomach rumble, her expression didn't change a bit. Normal girl, Sarah for instance. You mean a normal girl like Sarah would have reacted in a cute way? Like this, for instance. Oh good, yes. Give me examples of how Sarah would react.
何さ、しょうがないっしょ。食べたいけどすごく我慢してるんだから。 なんでって、それは前にあなたに太ってるって言われたから。でも別にさ、あなたに言われたからダイエットしてるわけじゃないよ。勘違いしないでよね、このボケナス。
You know, like a really obvious tsundere. You're so cute when you're blushing, Sarah. You're... Oh my god. Talk to me, please. Crap. Of course I'd want to escape into delusions with all that was... With all that was going on. Oof. I think this is an all-time record for, like, in a short span of... How many typos in a short span of time? We're on a roll here. Yua opened her mouth. Her voice was as cold as ever. Her gaze was directed at my feet. There was a plate there. The plate had pasta on it. Polak egg spaghetti. I can't even begin to imagine what that is. I'm gonna Google it. I want to know what that is. You know what? Ain't the first time ain't my first Google rodeo. I want to know. The hell is Polak egg spaghetti? Well, looking at images, it looks absolutely delicious. And now I want some. Wonderful. She'd even put some seaweed flakes on top of it. It had been there for 2 hours already, though, and the noodles were probably a squishy mess by now. Yua had made it. She'd left the room, leaving me tied up without saying a word, and come back 30 minutes later with this pasta. She must have gone out of the building and to the supermarket, bought the ingredients, and cooked it outside my room. I couldn't understand why she made it herself. She could have just as easily bought pre-made something at the convenience store. There might be poison in it, I thought. That's why I hadn't touched it. That, and since I was tied up, I couldn't reach it anyway. That's what I was thinking. Like, what do you mean why haven't you touched it? You tied him up! You moron. It was Yua's stomach that had rumbled. I tried to make my voice sound as sarcastic as possible.
あなたを肉体的にいたぶろうとか、そんなつもりはないんです。私はただ、将軍が出てくるのを待っているだけ。だから、食べてください。
Be waiting a while.
食べてくれなきゃ困ります。食べて。
この状態で、食べられると思ってるの？無茶言わないでよ。
Yua stood up and walked over to me, then crouched down right next to me. I looked away in fear, but part of me was hoping she'd decided to untie the ropes. She hadn't, though. Yua brought the plate towards me and somehow managed to get the pasta, which had now lost all its moisture, wrapped around a fork. She brought the fork to my mouth.
どうぞ。
やだ。食べないぞ。
Normally, having a girl feed you was an experience you could only find in an H game. But being fed by Yua right now was only making me want to kill somebody. If you want to feed me, untie me first, damn it. Then I could pretend to eat it and then say, it's nasty and I don't want any more. Then she'd feel real bad, I bet. What a petty revenge fantasy. Ew, gross food you made.
レンジでチンしましょうか。
My feelings.
いらないって言ってるじゃないか。
I thought about using my knee to knock the plate out of her hands, but if I pissed her off, there's no telling what she might do to me. The idea scared the crap out of me, and I gave up on it.
分かってください。私が西条くんにこんなことするのは、あなたを救うためでもあるんです。決してあなたを傷つけるためじゃないんですよ。
What? Was Yua just dumb? Was she literally stupid? Who the hell did she think she was anyway? Save me? Sure, I'd been afraid of the new-gen murders in Shogun, and wanted somebody to save me. But that list of somebodies did not include Yua. I wasn't interested in playing along with the delusions of a crazy chick.
食べて。
Oh my god.
無理にでも食べて。
She put the fork with the cold pasta wrapped around it up to my mouth.
食べられますよね。
She drew her face closer to mine. She was staring into my eyes.
食べてください。
No.
食べて。
No. And then she froze. Why did this girl always get so close to me whenever she was mad about something? I pressed my lips into a thin line and looked away. Even the idea of eating something this woman prepared for me was disgusting. This is, quite something. An hour or so passed. My stomach was hurting bad. I wanted to scream in terror, but I couldn't.
食べて。食べてよ。
No.
食べてって言ってるでしょ。
No.
食べて。
No. No. She was still right in front of my face, staring at me. She still had the fork with the pasta up against my lips. She'd been like that the whole time.
食べて。食べてください。食べないと。食べて。
Boy, she is cracked. Like, she is... Whew.
食べて。食べなさい。食べて。食べていいの。食べなよ。食べろ。
She kept whispering over and over in a low voice. It felt like she'd been doing it for oh my god. It felt like she'd been doing it for at least an hour. The whole thing was so eerie that I couldn't move a finger. This must have been how a frog feels when a snake is bearing down on it. She hadn't hurt me. She wasn't trying to force the pasta into my lips. But the terror I felt toward her was just growing more and more intense. All she was doing was waiting for me to eat. The reason it felt so creepy was that a normal person would have given up after 5 minutes. She'd been waiting for over an hour. She just screamed, "Eat the food already!" and grabbed me by the hair and forced it into my mouth. At least that would have been normal. I mean, he's not wrong. Like, she's just been doing this for like an hour is absolutely horrifying. I couldn't tell what Yua was thinking. There was something very, very wrong with her. She was broken. She didn't even seem human. I was scared. I was scared. I was scared. I was scared. Times, I was scared times 11? That's 11 I was scared. I was completely terrified. I wanted to just get on my knees and beg her to let me go. An awful sweat was forming over my whole body. The mental pressure was making it hard to even breathe. I'd never had a girl stare at me for this long, from this distance. Had anybody? Well, I hope not. I mean, if she was my girlfriend and we were having a nice romantic chat, that would be one thing. But all she was doing was staring at me with a blank expression and cold eyes, and mumbling "eat" over and over. This wasn't something that normally happened to people.
食べて。
She's still
食べ
going.
なさい。食べてよ。食べてください。食べろ。
I couldn't take her gaze anymore. I forced the words out of my mouth. They came out raspy and dry.
食べるよ。
Yua stopped whispering. She didn't move. She was still in the exact same position. I forced my mouth open. Trembling, I ate the pasta I'd refused for over an hour. It was dry, and eating it stole what little moisture remained in my already dry mouth. I swallowed it without even really chewing it. Didn't have it in me to try and figure out how it tasted. After she saw me do it, Yua blinked several times. She'd been frozen like a statue, and now she was finally starting to move.
おいしい
Of course not. Couldn't tell her that, though. I just nodded softly.
よかったです
She didn't look happy at all, though. The blank expression remained plastered on her face. She lowered the fork toward the plate. She grabbed... Oh my god. That sound. She grabbed another dry lump of pasta with the fork and raised it to my mouth again. Was I supposed to eat it all? Is she not going to let me go until I did? Please let me go. I started to cry. I was so scared. But no matter how much I cried, it looked like she was going to stay like this until all the pasta was eaten. So I cried, but I ate. I kept letting her feed me the dry, disgusting pasta. By the time I finished, I was mentally and physically exhausted.
お腹いっぱいになりましたかなりましたよねなったはず一生懸命作った甲斐がありました
She spoke coldly, but finally moved away from me. She put the plate on my computer desk and returned to the sofa. Then she sat down and looked at me. Once again, she stopped moving completely. Please, don't look at me. Stop looking at me. I kept whispering in my heart. I was too scared to speak. Is she going to keep looking at me for a full 24 hours? This was mental torture. The idea made me feel miserable.
なんでこんなことするんだよ。
I asked, sobbing. I had to ask.
僕に何の恨みがあって。
妹が死んだんです。
Huh? Sister? For just a moment, Yua looked like she was about to break into tears, but then the cold mask returned to her face.
集団ダイブの被害者の一人、私の双子の妹、ミアって言います。私は妹を殺した犯人を許さないって思ってました。そしてあなたにたどり着いた。あなたの苦しみを知りました。私は妹がなぜ殺されなくちゃいけなかったのか、その真実を知りたい。なぜ犯人が、将軍が妹を殺したのか知りたい。それとあなたも助けたい。分かってください。分かってくれますよね。分かるはずです。
I remembered the group dive video uploaded to YouTube. So one of the victims screaming and crying in that video was her younger sister. After what had happened in anime, I could kind of understand how she felt. That didn't mean I was sympathetic. She'd broken into my room and tied me to a post. Of course I couldn't sympathize with her. I'd completely lost track of how long I'd been in here. There were no windows in this room, so I couldn't even tell what time it was now.
その目誰の目ってどういう意味？
That pose is terrifying.
どうしてこれから殺す相手に言わせたの？どうしてダイイングメッセージとして残したの？あなたは何を訴えたいの？
The only way to tell inside the base was to look at the computer clock or the only way to tell time. Tied to the bedpost, I couldn't do it either. When I went to the bathroom, I was able to go outside, so I could get a general idea of what time it was then. But as this dragged on, I started to get reluctant to even go to the bathroom. Without any water, I didn't have any urge to pee. It felt like I hadn't needed to use the toilet for at least a full day now.
どうしてダーススパイダーなの？それを被ることで何を訴えたかったの？宗教的な意味があるの？ダークヒーロー願望？それともセランをバカにしたいだけ？
Yua barely moved. All she did was sit on the sofa. Occasionally she would stand up for a little or change how she sat, but nothing more. And the whole time she kept whispering. It amazed me that she could talk so much. She didn't call or text anyone, or use the computer to kill time. She didn't sleep. All she did was ask me questions. The words themselves were starting to lose their meaning. I hated being stared at. Shogun's mind reading, at least, only happened once in a while. I hated it, but it wasn't unbearable. But having Yua watch my every action with her expressionless, cold eyes, that felt like it was striking a fatal blow at the very core of who I was. As long as I was tied up here, unable to move, I couldn't see anything changing. I'd lost track of how long I'd been tied up. I had no idea how many days it had been. It felt like it might have only been 2 days, but it also might have been a month. Not being able to move was really stressful. For the past several hours, I'd thought of nothing but how I wanted to see a clock. I couldn't think of anything else.
それとも、
Her head suddenly began to sway. She took off her glasses and rubbed her tired eyes. The effect of having no sleep at all was finally catching up with her. She was getting what she deserved for being so stupid. What she was doing was pointless, a waste of effort. If she'd just listened to what I was telling her, none of this would have happened.
いつ出てきてくれるんですか？
Her whisper sounded so pained. Was she talking to Shogun?
どうしたら出てきてくれるんですか？出てきてよ。
He's not coming, sorry. He was never here in the first place.
待ってるから。
Stop! Go away! Stop doing this. Her voice dropped off, and then her body began to tilt to the side. She slumped over to the sofa and lay there, unmoving. Had she fallen asleep? Had she finally run out of steam? I sighed in relief as the tension left my body. I hadn't had a moment's relief while she was staring at me, but now I could finally get a little rest. Sarah, you don't... Stop being here without... It's weird seeing her without the sparkly pink background. No, go away. Stop it. You're not helping. I heard Sarah Tan's voice coming from next to the PC monitor. I mean, she's not wrong. Or, you know, just call the cops or something. Sarah, no, stop. Sarah, you suck. I see. I could, for example, rape her, or make her endure all the kinds of sexy punishments, perhaps. Or you could call the police. Trembling, I looked over at her face. Asleep, she was actually pretty cute. I remembered the soft smile she'd shown me when we'd first met. Obviously, she had her reasons for thinking of me as her enemy. I thought she was working for Shogun too, but she was the one who'd made me think that. She was the one who tricked me, lied to me. So even if I raped her, or made her endure all kinds of sexy punishments, she wouldn't have the right to complain. I looked at her face again. Her eyelids were twitching. Her face was twisted in pain. Suddenly, a single tear fell from the corner of her eye. Maybe she was dreaming about her dead sister. I couldn't, after seeing her cry. At least he has like a shred of a conscience, you know? And it's not Sarah. She keeps showing up like she's gonna be the conscience, but no. She's like if Jiminy Cricket was like extraordinarily fucked up. Oh my lord. No, it's not like that. Of course, I still couldn't forgive her for what still couldn't forgive what she'd done, but somehow my anger and my will to resist her were gone. I mean, she'd probably still, you know, escape, call the police, but was it because I wasn't as nervous now that she wasn't staring at me, or because I'd heard about what happened to her sister? Somehow, it felt like she actually wasn't going to hurt me. I felt incredibly sleepy. I decided to forget the pain in my arms from being tied up and just give in to the sleepiness. I could figure out how to escape later. Nap time. I woke up and felt something strange. Something was missing. That's how it felt. My eyes were still a little blurry as I looked around the room. When I tried to stand up, the cords dug into my wrists, sending pain shooting through my arms. I remembered that I was tied up. Yua was the one who tied me up. Yua wasn't here. That was what had felt so wrong. I was the only one here now. Where'd she gone? Did she go to make more food? Or to the bathroom? I had no idea how long Yua and I had been here, but neither she nor I had gone to school once during that time. The only times either of us left this room were either to cook or use the bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to take a shower. I let out a deep sigh. Yua was probably going to come back any minute now, then she'd go right back to watching me. Did Yua just have a really persistent personality? Or was it her anger and rage at her sister's death that was driving her to act so bizarrely? How could I get her to understand that I wasn't Shogun? Maybe I could show her the message I'd received from him on my PC? But Yua was completely overtaken with her own delusions right now. A single email wouldn't change her mind. I needed something more definitive to prove that Shogun and I were separate people. If Shogun were to show up in my room, that'd do it. Of course, that'd be a problem on its own. I didn't want to see Shogun ever again. If he was here, that meant he'd come to kill me. How exactly do you suggest he do that? Just pull a kitty pride, just right through the cord. Thank you, Sarah. I think I can untie myself though. I tried a bunch of times, of course, but had failed. Yua had tied the knots tightly. They weren't budging.
私が3次元になれたら、今すぐタッキーを助けに行くのにな。
But it also felt like staying here was the right move anyway. Trying to run might just make her mad. When she got mad, she was incredibly scary. I didn't want to do anything that might piss her off.
自分の命を守るために一番いい方法をちゃんと考えてるんだね。すごいよ、タッキー。だけど私さ、これ以上タッキーとあの女が同じ部屋にいるのは嫌だな。
I didn't either, but tied up like this, I just have to rely on her. Fortunately, she hadn't hurt me yet, and she was feeding me and even letting me use the bathroom. She was still treating me like a human being. And as soon as she figured out that Shogun wasn't going to show up, she'd let me go. She'd probably apologize, actually. When that happened, I'd make her get on her knees and beg for forgiveness, of course. I'd also make her let me touch her boobs or something, too. My God. And then we'd call it even. You kidnapped me, put me in a locked room, tied me up for days on end. Well, I'm gonna touch your boob once, then we're even. That's an even trade, right? I think that's like classic trade. Even Steven. You would never appear in front of me again, and I'd never go to see her again either. If nothing else, she'd cease to be a threat. And if I was lucky, maybe I could even bring her over to my side. The real Shogun was still lurking out there. If I was really lucky, I could get Yua to protect me from him. She hated the person behind the New Gen killings, and the enemy of my enemy was my friend. She and I wanted the same thing.
僕って頭良くね、天才じゃね。
I'm sure this will all go according to plan.
タッキーってば天才。私さ、ますますタッキーのこと好きになっちゃった。
Yeah, the smart move right now is just to hang in there. She sure was late, though. There was still no sign of her. Quite a lot of time had passed. Several hours at least. Probably several hours, anyway. Where'd she gone? It wasn't to the bathroom, if nothing else. But she'd been gone far too long for a shopping trip. She'd made several trips to the store to get food, and this was far longer than any of them. So where'd she gone? School? I didn't know what time it was, but if it was daytime, she could easily have gone to school. If I could look at my schedule, I would at least know what day it was. Say, for example, that she'd locked me up 3 days ago, and the first day was a Friday. In that case, the last 2 days would have been the weekend, and it would make sense that she hadn't gone to school. In that case, today would be Monday, then, and she would have left for school. Yeah, that's right. It had to be. Has to be. What day... Oh my god. What day had it been when she broken in here? My mind was all hazy, and I couldn't think straight. What if it wasn't school, though? Like, maybe she'd gone home? I could see some dumb, slutty teenager sleeping over somewhere without telling her parents, but Yua didn't look like that type. Maybe she'd made up a lie or something to get their permission to knock him home. But even so, after several days, they'd probably start to worry. So maybe she decided to head back home to reassure them. I would also like to point out, it's insanely quiet. Like, it only just occurred to me, how long has there been, like, no music or background noise? There's, like, the tiniest, like, there's, like, a little clicking, I think, of the lights. I don't know, it's, like, really disconcerting now. That theory made sense. Either way, she was sure to come back. My best move was probably to save my energy, to not move. I took a small deep breath and closed my eyes. Time to take a nap. I couldn't sleep. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep for several hours, but got nowhere. I kept looking at the door to see if Yua would come back. Occasionally, the door would shake a little when there was a particularly strong gust of wind. I'd look up at it, hoping that Yua had come back. There was still no sign of her at all, though. I was tied up and alone here in my shipping crate. She was so late that I decided to see if I could break my bonds. I was bound to the bedpost by nylon cords. If I struggled hard enough, I might be able to break them. I yanked my arms forward hard. That's gonna hurt. No good. They weren't budging. Maybe I was just weak. Of course, I was a wimpy otaku kid. I spent all my time on the computer playing video games or reading the net. I wasn't going to be able to pull off any Hollywood heroics. I wasn't going to be able to break them by force. I tried to think of another way. If I had a knife, or something like a knife, that might do it. But there was nothing like that anywhere. All I could see were magazines, or manga, or CDs, or discarded containers of food from the convenience store.
ダメだ。
I was such a loser, I couldn't even cut a nylon cord on my own.
ユアは戻ってくるよね。
I whispered aloud, as if trying to convince myself.
ねえねえタッキー、もしかしてさ、見捨てられたんじゃない？
Abandoned me? You mean she just left me here? She wasn't coming back? Needed her to come back, badly. I was helpless, tied up here on my own. If she was going to tie me up, she at least had to take responsibility for keeping me alive, right? I was overthinking things. She hadn't abandoned me. She would come back. She hadn't found out who Shogun was yet. She wouldn't give up this soon. You wouldn't abandon me. I'd be just fine.
知ってる？そういうのってさ、ストックホルム症候群って言うんよ。
Sarah, I don't see you dropping any grand suggestions here. I don't see you giving me any escape tips. Of course, I knew what the phrase meant, but this wasn't that. I didn't have Stockholm Syndrome. I wasn't dependent on her in any way. Well, I didn't feel close to that crazy bitch in the slightest.
僕もつい最近、ナナミのことがあったから、ユアの気持ちはわからなくはないとかって脳内で妄想してなかったっけ？
He did think that, that's true. Was I lying to myself? Was I trying to force myself to think that Yua was safe to be around? Maybe I was. Stockholm Syndrome involved your mind lying to itself to keep you safe. But so what if I was lying to myself? In this situation, I didn't have any choice but to rely on Yua. Rimi had ditched me, and there was no sign of Nanami lately, either. My parents were, according to Nanami, worried about me, but they hadn't actually come to see me, not even once. The only other person I knew oh my god. The only other person who knew I lived up here was Yua. Yua was the only one I could rely on anymore. If it was a lie, it was a necessary one. One I needed to keep me alive. I didn't want to die, and I didn't want Yua to hurt me, but I didn't have the courage to fight back with force. I'd have to cling to her for help. It was my only option. I'd have to keep being defenseless until she understood that I wasn't a threat. It was the only way for a helpless loser like me to survive. I would believe in Yua, and believing in her meant lying to myself. That was what it would take to get me out of this safely.
あんなストーカーメガネ女を信じちゃダメだよ。タッキーゆとりすぎ。
Again, what are you gonna do about it? Sorry, Sarah Tan. This is the one time I can't listen to what you have to say. So please, come back soon, Yua. You'll come back, right? It happened out of nowhere. The door suddenly flung open with no warning. I flinched away from the sudden sound. I could see that the sky outside was turning to the color of evening. Yua came inside, placing herself between me and the twilight. I felt so relieved when I saw her. Knowing that she hadn't abandoned me made me so happy I thought I might cry. I hated myself for being so weak, but the sense of relief was far stronger than the hate. Welcome back! Yua was all I had, so I said it, even though I knew how stupid it sounded. But... oh, is she mad? Why is she mad? Oh no. Yua strode over to me, crouched down to my left, and grabbed my hair. She pulled hard. Oh my god. Yua, please. You're being the worst.
邪魔なの。あなたがいなければ将軍は出てくるはずなのに。なんでいるの？自重してよ。少し引っ込んでよ。
あなたと話しても意味ないの。私はあなたと話したいんじゃない。出して将軍を出しなさいよ。
Something was wrong with Yua. You don't say! Understatement of the century. Was she starting to run out of patience? Was it because Shogun was nowhere to be found? Was she about to resort to more forceful measures? This wasn't what I expected at all. I believed in her, believed she wasn't going to hurt me. Was she going to betray me again? I was the only one who thought there was betrayal going on here. I realized the truth. I'd been trusting her for no reason. You had never asked me to trust in her at all. Was I just being naive? Because I was an otaku and a loser? Because I wasn't used to dealing with people in the real world? I deserved to be deceived? If that was true, then I didn't need the 3D world at all. I'd rather just stay in the 2D world forever.
見て。
She shoved something in front of my face. It looked like a notebook.
妹の日記です。家に戻って取ってきたんです。これを読んであなたは知るべきです。妹は、ミヤちゃんは集団ダイブが起きるもっと前からあなたに、いえ、将軍に狙われていたんです。
Before?
ストーカーされていたんですよ。だから集団ダイブは5人を殺すのが目的だったんじゃない。他の4人は巻き添え。依頼はミヤちゃん1人だった。そうでしょう。そうよね、将軍。答えて。出てきて答えなさい。
Yua's voice was gradually becoming more and more hysterical. My heart was pounding with fear. I was shaking. No matter what happened, I couldn't admit that she was right. All of this was her delusion. She was making it all up. I never even met her little sister. I tried to shake my head, but the pain from her pulling my hair made it so I couldn't.
まだ出てこないつもりですか。
Her face got closer and closer. She whispered in my ear. And then she brought the diary up to eye level.
見て。ミヤちゃんの苦しみを見なさい。
She forced my head upwards. She flipped through the pages with her free hand. And when I saw what was written there, I froze. Yeah, I can't help but notice, that don't say Mia's diary. Also, you know. The hell was this? What was this?
日記の最後のページ。ミヤが最後に書き残した。その目、誰の目。日付は9月6日。集団ダイブでミヤが殺された前日です。
将軍だ。あいつに思考盗撮されてたんだ。
思考盗撮って何？違うでしょ。違うわ。ストーカーされていたんです。将軍に、あなたに。
僕は将軍じゃ。
あなたの中にいる将軍にです。
だから言ってるじゃないか。将軍は他にいるんだ。
将軍は西条匠です。言い逃れしないで。その目誰の目というあなたが昔書いた作文がその証拠です。
That is the weakest proof.
他にもいくつもの状況証拠がある。
So...
あなたしか考えられない。考えられないのよ。あなたじゃなきゃおかしい。妹はあなたに殺された。
No, I don't sleepwalk. I don't have DID. Shogun is somebody else. He's not me. He's somebody else. Are we not going to talk about the fact that it said Yua's diary? That was... no? We're not going to... Okay.
この日記を見てどう思うの？ミヤを追い詰めて殺して満足？こんな日記を書かせるぐらい追い詰めて満足？どうしてミヤにこんなひどいことをしたの？どうしてミヤを殺したの？どうして？
ユアは間違ってる。
You're wrong about everything.
間違ってるのはあなたよ。あなたは人を殺した。殺したじゃない。人殺し。
だってこの日記はユアの日記じゃないか。
Okay, good.
なんです？
Yua looked confused. but I'd clearly seen it just a moment ago. The words on the cover. Yeah. They read Yua's diary. I thought maybe I'd been mistaken or something, but Yua had just said clearly whose diary this was.
妹の日記です。
Then why didn't the letters on the cover say Mia's diary? Take that!
これはユアの日記だ。表紙にそう書いてある。
何言ってるの？
She didn't even look at it.
これはミヤちゃんのよ。死んだミヤちゃんの日記。あなたに殺されたミヤちゃんの。ミヤちゃんのなのよ。ミヤちゃんが書いた。死ぬ前に書いたの。
だったら表紙を見てよ。
Yua closed the notebook and looked down at it, unconcerned. Then she turned back to me.
やっぱりミヤちゃんの日記だわ。
Huh? You saw it. I just saw you looking at it. I saw you looking at the words Yua's diary. So why?
これはミヤちゃんが書いた日記。私を騙そうとしたの。騙されるわけないでしょ。私はミヤちゃんとずっと一緒に育ってきたんだから。生まれてからずっと一緒だったんだから。あなたなんかよりずっと私の方がミヤちゃんのことを知ってる。
Like the fact that she spelled her name Yua?
知ってるの。
What an odd quirk of Mia's.
ユアには見えないの。はっきり書いてあるじゃないか。それはユアの日記。
Yua suddenly put up her hands to her temples. Her expression was twisted with pain.
違う。この日記は私じゃなくてミヤちゃんが。私。西条くんに自覚があるはずないから。あなたは DID 多重人格なんです。
君は誰だ？
私はユア。私は。
Was she the one with DID, not me?
楠木ミヤなんて実在するの？
Did the police even publish the names of the victims in the group dive? All the victims were underage. Don't they usually try to keep the names of underage victims out of the media? Or maybe...
ユアに双子の妹なんて本当にいたの？
Maybe Mia Kusunoki was real, but maybe Mia Kusunoki wasn't actually Yua Kusunoki's twin. Maybe they both had really similar names, but they were completely different people.
ヒルア。
Yua suddenly started to strangle me. Her fingers were thin and frail, but her strength was incredible. I couldn't breathe.
いたわよ。ミヤちゃんは確かにいた。はっきり覚えてるもの。
証明できるの？
Yua relaxed her fingers.
自分は DID じゃないって証明できるの？楠木ミヤじゃないって証明できるの？
I couldn't. I'd only been able to be sure that I wasn't Shogun when the real Shogun had shown up in front of me.
できるわ。
Yua's hand moved away from my throat. She threw down the notebook.
ミヤちゃんにはほくろがあった。
She began to take off her top.
左胸の下、そこにほくろがあった。私にはないほくろ。
Slowly, fumblingly, she began to undo the buttons one by one. Dun dun dun! She took off her bra, too. She hid her large chest with her hands, and she tried to look under her left breast. I looked, too. Of course you did. And I could see that there was a mole there.
ある。
Well, would you look at that?
あるよ。
どうして私には
ほくろはないはずなのに。私、誰？
Her face was pale and her lips were shaking. Her vision was darting around her. She wrapped her arms around her body, her top still exposed.
私はユア。
Gosh, I hope not.
私はずっといい子で、ミヤちゃんはずっと悪い子で、私はずっといい子になりたくて、ミヤちゃんはユアちゃんが大好きで、ユアちゃんはミヤちゃんが心配で。
Nothing she was saying made any sense. I shivered, but I didn't feel like running away and leaving her alone. I knew what she was going through. I experienced the exact same thing myself, quite recently. Ever since Yua had told me I had DID, my whole life had felt unstable. So I understood. I knew how it felt to have your whole identity come crashing down around you. I didn't know if it was DID or something else. There was something wrong with Yua. There had been for a long time. Her personality changed too drastically from one moment to the next for it to be an act. I remembered thinking that the gap between when she'd first spoken to me and when she'd snapped had been way too big for them to be the same person. Oh, thank God.
ユアは DID なんじゃ。
違う、ちゃんといた、ちゃんといたの。ミヤちゃんはちゃんといた。
I want him to cut back to Bond. Like, he was onto something, right? Like... Yua reached into her jacket pocket, still covering her chest with one hand. She took out her phone and pulled something up for me to see.
見て、ここにいるでしょ。私たちがいるでしょ。
Oh, she was. There were two of them. It didn't look like it could have been digitally altered. You could tell they were twins. They looked almost exactly alike. The only difference was the glasses. Even their hairstyles were the same.
私はここにいる。
君はどっちなんだ。
私は。
She pointed to the left. And then the world exploded. And then the floor began to violently shake. An earthquake? It was bigger than the last one. Third melt? Is this the third melt? I think this is the third one, right? The big one. There was a violent ripping in my ears, a high-pitched sound that threatened to split open my head. Yua covered her head with her hands and curled up into a ball. I wanted to do the same, but I couldn't move my hands. It was like thousands of tiny needles being stabbed in my ears. And then... with a terrible impact, my vision turned white. Yeah. There were a lot of students in the Shibuya McD's last night. That night. The girls were talking and having fun, and occasionally breaking into high-pitched laughter. I took a look outside the window, and then got out my phone. September 7th, 5:02 p.m. She was 2 minutes late. I felt a little annoyed as I took a bite of my chicken sandwich.
ごめん、ミヤちゃん。待たせちゃった？
Yua appeared, holding a tray in one hand. She sat across from me and took a small deep breath.
うん、待った。5分くらいおまけしてほしいな。あ、ミヤちゃんもチキンバーガー？私もだよ。
She pointed to the chicken sandwich on her tray. We were twins, so of course our tastes were pretty much the same. She didn't need to point it out every time. But still, she looked happy.
ミヤちゃんとこうして渋谷で会うのって初めてだよね。
My school wasn't in Shibuya, and I could always see her at home. I'd never had a reason to come to Shibuya after school to see her.
私にお願いしたいことって何？私にできることなら何でも言ってね。
I finished my chicken sandwich and took a gulp of my iced tea before leaning towards her.
実はこれから人と会うんだけど、彼氏？そんなんじゃない。今まで一度も会ったことない人たち。たちって何人？4人かな。どういう関係なの？ネットで知り合った人。 別にやましい関係とかじゃないから。アニメのファンサイトみたいな掲示板があるんだけど、そこで。へえ、私インターネットなんて全くやらないからよくわからないけど、そうやってネットで知り合うことってよくあるの？まあね。でもオフ会は私も初めてで。
He's making the funny face.
みやちゃん人見知りだもんね。人見知りじゃない。人に合わすのが苦手なだけ。そういうことにしておいてあげる。で、大丈夫なの？初めての人たち相手にうまく話せそう？本当は会おうと思ってたんだけど、今になってやっぱり怖くなっちゃったんだ。めんどくさくなっただけ。でもドタキャンするのも悪いし、だから私が代わりに行けばいいのね。
Yua was sharp. She usually knew what I was going to say before I said it. Sometimes she could get on my nerves that way, but today I was happy that I didn't need to explain anything to her.
そういうこと。お願いしていい？別にいいけど、みやちゃんはそれでいいの？友達を作れるチャンスなのに。そんな小学生みたいな扱いしないでよ。別に友達を作りたいわけじゃないし。もうみやちゃんは本当に意地っ張りなんだから。言ってくれる？うん、わかった。私は楠木みやになりきればいいのよね。そこまでしなくてもいいけど。どうせならとことんやった方が面白いじゃない。そうだ、制服も入れ替えようよ。なんでそんなにはしゃいでるの？みやちゃんから頼み事されるなんてめったにないでしょ。だから嬉しいの。ゆあちゃん、バカみたい。どうせバカなお姉さんですよーだ。ほら、そうと決まれば着替えちゃおうよ。
Yua grabbed my hand. And pulled me into a bathroom stall where we switched everything we owned.
みやちゃん、水面の制服似合うね。
Okay, she...
と、お
I
父さ
see.
んやお母さんでもどっちがどっちなのか見分けつかな
I
いよ。
assume that the glasses would go over to Mia, but I guess that's not how glasses work. Prescription glasses. That's what was confusing me so much. I was like, but if they switched, and then because the glasses were found with the dead one, and so I was like, but how they didn't switch glasses? That's like the one thing they didn't switch. Got it.
あ、でも
I now
メガネかけてたら
follow.
一発でバレちゃうかな。これも外して行くのはちょっと難しいかも。
Okay.
何も見えなくなっちゃう。
That
初
was
対
the
面の相手
kicker.
なんだからここまでしなくてもよかったのに。
That was what was confusing me so much. Got it.
もうまだ言ってるし、待ち合わせの時間そろそろなんでしょ。それまで打ち合わせしておこうよ。私アニメのことちっともわからないけど、何を話せばいいの？適当に相槌打ってればいいよ。どうせ一回こっきりしか会わない人たちなんだし。そんなことないよ。この出会いを通してお友達付き合いすることになるかもしれないでしょ。もしかしたら彼氏もできちゃうかも。興味ない。あるくせに。なかったら会う約束なんてしないもの。うるさいな。頑張って楠木みやはとってもいい子ですっていうのを印象づけてくるね。本当にそういうのいいってば。
It'd only make it harder to meet them a second time. I wasn't as social as Yua was.
それじゃ行ってくるね。よろしく。そこまで頑張らなくていいから。はいはい。じゃあね、みやちゃん。
Yua gave me a happy wave. She was wearing my uniform, carrying my bag, and then she disappeared into the Shibuya crowds. That was the last time I saw her. I went home and waited for her. Till I saw what had happened on the news. I woke up with a splitting headache. That's really sad, because, like, based on what we know, that it actually makes a lot of sense as to why she continued living as Yua instead of admitting she was Mia, because her parents apparently hated Mia, so it was probably easier and, psychologically. That's depressing. Wonderful. Oh, that's really sad. I woke up with a splitting headache. Can I say that? The bed had fallen on top of me, I realized. I wasn't just feeling the pain from the headache, but the weight of the bed pressing into my back. I couldn't move my head, so I moved my eyes to look around the room. Yua was slumped up against the wall. She'd been half naked before the quake, but now she'd put her clothes on from the look of it. It was strange to see her without her glasses. Her glasses had fallen at my feet. The lenses had broken.
助けて。紐、ほどいてよ。
I called out to her, trying to fight the pain in my head. She looked at me with empty eyes.
思い出したの。
You can have your life-changing revelation in a moment when I'm not tied up under the bed. I didn't really care what she'd remembered, though. Just untie me. I can't move with this thing on top of me.
思い出したのよ。
Now she's gonna have her whole revelation and monologue. She slowly stood up. She wasn't wearing her glasses, but even in the darkness, she could see clearly enough to untie the knots holding me. Oh, okay, she did. Thought she was gonna monologue first. Finally free, I managed to crawl out from under the bed. But that was all I could do. Just like the last earthquake, this one had left me with a splitting headache. It hurt too much to even stand. I was forced to crawl on the ground in pain.
ユアちゃんだったのよ。
She was whispering something to herself again.
集団ダイブで死んだのはミアじゃない。ユアちゃんだった。
ユア、何を。
私はユアじゃない。
She laughed.
私は
Oh, she got that crazy
Mia.
face. That face is so funny, but it takes on a whole new context in this situation.
自分をユアちゃんだって思い込んでただけ。
Like, sometimes it's just a really awkward, silly face, but here it's like, that is the face of someone who is psychologically breaking. Like,
あの日私たちは入れ替わったの。それでユアちゃんは死んだ。本当は私が死ぬはずだったのに。
suddenly, the expression disappeared from her face. Her eyes were still empty. She offered me a hand.
西条くん、もう将軍のことなんてどうでもよくなっちゃった。結局ユアちゃんは私が死なせたようなものだから。ねえ、一緒に来てほしい。
どこへ。
ユアちゃんが死んだ場所。一緒に来てくれるだけでいい。お願い。
And then I understood. Oh, she's gonna... Don't jump. Don't. I swear to God, if this ends with her jumping off the building, I'm gonna be mad. Yua, no, Mia, was planning to die. I wasn't sure if I should try to stop her, but I realized nothing I said would make a difference. So I took her hand, and with her help, tried to stand up. There was a stabbing pain in my head. Felt like my vision was turning red. Feel the sound of the blood pumping through my head. Ka-thud, ka-thud. It hurt too much to move.
歩ける？
Mia wrapped her arms around me to support me.
歩いてくれないと困るわ。一緒に来てほしいの。私を助けると思って。お願い。
With her help, I managed to head towards Shibuya Station. Shibuya was now a city of death. There were bodies everywhere. Some were covered in blood. Some had severed limbs. Some had crushed heads. It was a scene out of a nightmare. There was nothing remaining of the brightly lit city I knew, only death and ash and despair. There were huge cracks in the asphalt roads, and the streets could have caved in at any time. Huge chunks of concrete had fallen off the buildings and were blocking the roads, making it impossible to travel in a straight line. But Mia and I kept walking, oblivious to the cries for help around us. We went toward the huge figure of Cornelius Tower in the distance. The tower was mostly undamaged. Parts of the exterior were crumbling, but it had survived the earthquake and was still standing straight. As near as I could tell from the outside, all of the lights were off. Maybe somebody had already evacuated and it was empty. As expected, there was no one in the lobby, and no electricity. The elevators weren't working. We were forced to use the emergency stairs instead. Cornelius Tower had 41 stories. It was 184 meters tall. I'd learned those 2 bits of trivia while researching the group dive case online. It was crazy to try and climb all those stairs, especially since I could barely walk with this headache. But with Yua's help, I managed to start climbing the stairs, one at a time, as the sweat poured from my body.
お父さんとお母さんは私が自分のことをユアちゃんだって言い出して気を使ってくれたんだと思う。私をユアとして扱ってミアが死んだことにしたのかも。
Mia was talking to herself. I just listened. No, maybe I didn't even need to listen. It felt like she wasn't talking so that I could hear her.
昔からそうだった。私は生意気な娘だったから。両親はいつも私を腫れ物にでも触るかのように扱ったわ。ミアを死んだことにするなんてね。親はユアちゃんよりミアに死んでほしかったのかもしれない。それも全部私のせいだけど。自分がユアちゃんだと思い込んだ私のせいよ。ユアちゃんが死んだみたいに私も死ねばいいのよ。
ユアはどんな人だったの？
憧れだった。羨ましかった。たまにイラついたりしたけど嫌いじゃなかった。むしろ大好きだった。ユアちゃんのこと大好きだった。私のことを分かってくれるたった一人のかけがえのない人だったもの。ユアちゃんが笑顔でいてくれれば私はどんなに辛いことがあっても嬉しかった。いつも私のことを心配してくれたわ。心配させてるのが申し訳なくて私はつい冷たく接してた。それなのにいつも優しくて。ユアちゃん
Wept silently as she walked up the stairs. Were they tears of regret, of sorrow, of guilt? I couldn't tell. The wind up on the heliport was stronger than I thought. You had a 360-degree view of the Shibuya night sky up here, but there was no beauty to be seen, only darkness. I could just barely make out Tokyo Tower and Ropingi Bills in the distance. Ropingi Bills. Below us, the city of Shibuya was dead silent. There was almost no light. The darkness hid the shattered remains of the city. If it was daytime, I might have been astonished at the sight below me.
西条くん、もしよかったら
Mia let go of me. I collapsed right to the ground.
一緒に飛んでくれない？
It's quite the ask. She was staring out into the distance. Her hair was blowing in the wind and hiding her expression. I couldn't see the look on her face. I'd known that she'd come here to jump. She was going to follow after her sister. I knew exactly what my answer was.
やだね。
Fuck that!
僕は死にたくない。なんで僕を監禁した女と心中しなくちゃいけないんだ。
I mean, that's completely fair. He's like, yeah.
そう言うと思った。
She started to walk toward the edge of the heliport, staggering occasionally in the strong wind.
そうそう。西条くんと予約しに行ったセイラちゃんのフィギュア。
She suddenly stopped and turned around.
ちゃんと買ったのよ。とても可愛くてセクシーだね。すっかり気に入っちゃって、私の部屋の机の上に飾ってあるの。
Her smile was frail. Why was she telling me this now?
そんなこと言っても、僕は君に同情しない。
同情なんて求めてないわ。それじゃ、さよなら、西条くん。私を殺した人。私も、ゆあちゃんのところに行くね。
This is not how I was expecting this to end. Is this even how this ends? I don't even know. Everything Nishijo said made perfect sense. It was strange, but what I felt was loneliness, a sad ache in the bottom of my heart. In the end, I was never able to prove for myself that he was Shogun. Maybe he was right, and I was wrong. Either way, there was no point in hating him anymore. If I hadn't asked Yua to take my place at the meetup, she wouldn't have died. She shouldn't have been the one to die. She was smart, pretty. She had lots of friends, and her parents loved her. But she died. Yua Kusunoki had died. And at the same time, Mia Kusunoki had disappeared. She'd become like a ghost. That was the choice I'd made. I didn't know if I was alive or dead anymore. Yua was gone, too. I'd be better off dead. I stood on the edge of the heliport. This was where Yua and the other four had leapt to their deaths. I looked down and suddenly felt dizzy. There was barely any light below me, but still, I could feel just how high up I was. How had Yua felt when she jumped from this height? Was she scared? I'm sorry for making you scared. Oh, this is fucking heavy, dude. I'm going to be with you now. I'm going to suffer the same pain that you suffered. The pain I was supposed to suffer. I took a deep breath. My heart was at peace. I wasn't afraid to die. I spread out my hands like wings. I closed my eyes. I stepped out into empty air. The ground beneath me vanished. I fell. The world turned upside down. Takumi, make another flower bed! There was nothing to hold me back. I was falling, but it was like my body was rising. I could hear the roar of the wind. Ground was getting closer. I could see the asphalt below me where Yua had hit the ground, where she'd landed, where every bone in her body had shattered, where her organs had exploded, her blood and her brain matter had scattered everywhere. I don't want to die. Just a few moments ago, I thought I wasn't scared of death at all, but now that I couldn't move, I felt terrified. I don't want to die. Yua had died, but I still wanted to live. My survival instincts took over completely. I screamed. The scream came up from the bottom of my heart. I reached out frantically to the rapidly receding night sky. I knew that nobody was going to grab it. But still, I reached out. I wished. I kept screaming. I don't want to die. But nobody heard my cry. Nobody was there to offer me a hand. The ground was right there. Takumi, flower bed! I don't think it happened. Or I could feel the sensation of every bone in my body shattering, but it quickly disappeared. Was that her delusion? Interesting. I found myself back on the roof of Cornelius Tower once more. Nishijo was right in front of me. He wasn't looking at me, but he was offering me a hand. Or was it his delusion? I don't know what's happening anymore. I jumped and fell 180 meters, smashing my body against the ground. I stared at his hand, too stunned to even wipe away my tears. He showed her that so that she could. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Or maybe they'll explain I should just play the game. But I feel like, did he show her that delusion so that she would get closure but also wouldn't have to die? If that's what they're going for here, that's badass. His voice was cold.
君に死なれるのは困るんだ。まるで僕が突き落としたみたいじゃないか。僕は 殺人犯扱いされたくないね。
私落ちたのに、自分で飛び降りたのに。
妄想でも見てたんじゃない？
A delusion. I couldn't believe a delusion could have pain and sensations that felt so real.
ねえ、西尾くん。ゆあちゃんは、あんな痛い思いをして死んだんだね。なのに、私、ゆあちゃんと同じ痛みを味わおうとしたのに、私は、死にたくないって思っちゃったの。本来死ぬのは私だったのに、死にたくないって。もう、飛べない。あの痛みを知ってしまったら、もう、怖くて飛べない。私、どうすればいいのか。
今ので君は一度死んだ。ユアの痛みを知ったならもうそれでいいじゃないか。これからはもう一度楠木宮として一から生きていけばいいと思う。
When did Takumi get so freaking cool? That's like maximum badass status. I'm not gonna lie. That's
ユアの分まで。
dude.
ありがとう。ありがとう。
I reached out and took his hand. It was so very, very warm. I could feel the warmth of his body through his skin. The warmth made me stop shivering. When did Taco... Dude, that was the best ending. That was the best ending. I know I've only seen like 3 of them, but... Dude. Oh man, my heart. That has to be like the coolest thing Takumi is done in this entire game. I mean, all right, the thing with the becoming intangible and like becoming a goo, that was pretty cool. But like, he like, that's awesome. That's so like, he like showed her that so that she could get closure and live. That's so great. Oh man. I love it. I love everything about that. And also just enjoy this for a moment. I freaking love this game. I love these games. I love this series. I freaking... It's stuff like this that's just like really heavy and really like, oh man, I like that. Not so much the last one. We don't talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. I never want to bring it up again. I probably will, but I don't want to. More importantly, this. I love this. What is this ending called? I want to know what the name is. Show me. Show me the name. Like oh man, my heart is melting right now. That was so great. Moon and Sun. What a phenomenal, oh man, that was great. I love that ending. I loved it. Loved it a lot. I'm gonna go now. I don't have anything extra clever to say. Bye.